On the city streets, a guy says he's on the city streets. Incredible. He's interviewing people and asking what they would do if they had $70,000. Man, you could pay off some debts, but it's not enough to buy an apartment, right? And that's exactly what the first sucker here is failing to realize. The chubby guy here definitely doesn't get any girls already thinking about buying a car, huh? Trying to start from zero. Meanwhile, in the couple, the woman obviously decides everything and says they would save the money. Then the interviewer asks the final question. What would you do if you were the richest person in the world? This time, everyone looks kind of thrown off. One girl says she maybe start trying to enjoy life and have fun. Meanwhile, the prettier one says she'd first like to know how to become rich like that before thinking about what to do. Now on a TV show, a woman comments that these were some interesting reactions. She now wants to ask the first Korean person to ever become the richest person in the world. She wants to know this person's vision, someone who in theory, everyone says can see the future. A bit awkward, he replies that he can't see the future. What a lying bastard. Then suddenly, his eye glows. At the back of the room, there's an old lady with an eagle perched on her staff, which suddenly takes off, shining in golden light. After soaring through the air, the boy gives a smile. Looks like he got distracted like a fool, so the woman tells him to hurry up and answer. He says that actually he's just a lucky investor, nothing more. But obviously, we're not in the present now, are we? Did you think we were going to start with a billionaire's life? Of course not. Someone shouts at him and he wakes up, mumbling something about Kang Jin-hoo. It's pretty clear. This guy must have done his military service and is now back, broke. So why does that evil he saw back at the military camp keep appearing in his dreams? Ah, damn it. I thought it was a spoiler for the future, but turns out the fool is just dreaming. This guy is our boy, Kang Jin-hoo, 23 years old, unemployed, broke, and screwed. As you can see, he lives in what's basically a basement of his mom's house. But his life wasn't always like this. For a while, he had a father who ran some successful businesses and a mother who was as kind as a flower. He was basically living a dream. Guess that didn't explain much, huh? Damn father must have gone out to buy milk and never came back. Then he gets a call and goes to visit a friend. Man, look at this guy's action figures. That one right there? Mid-tier quality, congrats. Too bad it must cost a fortune, huh? I'll never own one of those. His glasses-wearing friend tells him to check out his badass collection. It's twice as big and way more colorful now. Kang, however, responds that this damn collection has been huge since elementary school. There's no way he'd ever notice any difference. His friend insists that he doesn't appreciate the finer things in life. His name is Otaku, also 23. He asks what the protagonist is going to do now that he's finished military service. Kang replies that he's already graduated from college, so it's time to start working and make life easier for his mom. Taku raises his can, saying that he really is a good son. The protagonist thanks his friend, who apparently, last year on Christmas, had dinner with his mom so she wouldn't be alone, since our boy was stuck in the military. They keep talking about random things until Taku says he has something important to tell him. Then he reveals that he found the password to his bitcoins. Kang looks a bit confused, so the guy reminds him about a game called Rutnia. Apparently, a long time ago, when he used to play that game, he sold everything to buy bitcoins. But, well, he ended up losing access. Jinhyu is immediately shocked because he knows those bitcoins are worth a fortune nowadays. Taekyu explains that he usually doesn't clean his waifu shelf, but he decided to tidy up a bit, and that's when he found it. Our boy now wants to know how much was in there. His friend tells him the amount minus 1,120. Jinhyu assumes he's talking about the price of each bitcoin and asks if he really just made $840,000. That's when Taekyu explains that he wasn't talking about the value, he was talking about the quantity. He had 1,120 bitcoins. Jinhyu is completely stunned and starts doing the math. Math isn't his strong suit, and after 36 imaginary scenes of him thinking, he finally asks if his friend really just made almost $9 million. Man, what more could you even ask for? He's all flustered, asking if the guy is crazy. There's no way he actually got that much money. Taekyu admits that he also felt a bit confused. It's so much money that he doesn't even know how to feel about it. Meanwhile, the broke friend is already asking for 100 million won, but Taekyu refuses. He had already transferred all the money to an exchange because apparently Bitcoin was about to rise even more. Jinhyu immediately reacts. You bastard, you're such a stingy meme. If I had known you could make this much money with that, I would have taken the game more seriously. But then he suddenly remembers something. He grabs Taekyu, reminding him that back when his Rutnia character was sold, that damn friend had also sold his. He better hand over his share or he was a thief. Taekyu just shrugs and tells him to try remembering what percentage he had. As Jinhyu stops to think, suddenly he sees that same eagle staring at him from the other building. That confuses him. It's the same creature that appeared in his dreams. The bird flaps its wings, flies straight toward him, passes through the window, and soars over Jinhyu. Flames linger in the air and words begin to form. Taekyu notices his weird expression. Why do you look like that? Jinhyu asks if his friend knows anything about a company called Mountain Hill. Taekyu looks confused and says that's actually the name of the exchange where his money is stored. The words were clear. That company is going to collapse. Jinhyu remembers that this same thing happened when he was in the army. What if this wasn't just a hallucination but some kind of real power? He immediately tells Taekyu to listen carefully. He needs to sell all of his Bitcoin. Now, Taekyu hesitates, unsure why Jinhyu is acting so suddenly. But Jinhyu insists that waiting even a second longer is too risky. He needs to sell immediately. Taekyu stops and stares at him. Our boy gets serious and Taekyu finally agrees. Alright, I'll sell everything. He had already asked his sister to set up an account, so it was fine. But after this sale, you better explain everything. Jinhoo just nods while wondering why the eagle keeps appearing to him. It did make sense for a message like this to suddenly pop up, warning about that company's collapse. Then suddenly, his friend jumps up in shock. The exchange servers just went down. Jinhoo, of course, immediately asks what happened to the Bitcoin, and by a hair's breadth, Taekyu managed to sell it right before everything crashed. He decides to check what's going on. Maybe it's just server maintenance. Meanwhile, the protagonist is more focused on why this happened right when Eagle appeared. Then Taekyu lets out a horrified yell. The server just came back, but it looks like everyone's accounts have been wiped clean. The internet is in complete chaos. Now his friend wants to know, how the hell did Jinhoo already know this was going to happen? Obviously, Jinhoo has no idea how he's supposed to explain something like this. His friend keeps insisting, but then Jinhoo says that maybe he has gained the ability to see the future. Whoa, dude, he just straight up told his friend. This guy cannot keep a secret, huh? But let's forgive him after all. His friend did just reveal that he made 13 billion and was still planning to give him his share. The story then jumps back to a year ago to Division No. 10 during mortar training. One of the guys tells the protagonist to stop spacing out and pay more attention. Looking a bit lost, the kid says he understands. But then suddenly, that same eagle from before appears. He thought it was way too shining and epic looking to be just any ordinary bird. Once again, it flew past him. When he mentioned it to his friends, they all seemed confused, telling him he was crazy. And that's when the words appeared. Cannon 188 explosion. He wasn't sure what they meant and wondered if it was something used in training. Right in front of him, a 188 mortar was being prepped. And before he could say anything was already fired. But it didn't seem to launch with much force. In that moment, Jinhoo learned something. When humans experience imminent fear for their lives, they react before they even think. He immediately shouted for everyone to hit the ground, and the entire area was blasted to pieces. Back in the present, his friend says it's honestly a miracle that he made it out alive. Jinhoo explains that some people died in that accident, but thanks to that premonition, he walked away unscathed. When he tried to tell people about it, everyone dismissed it as some kind of confusion or psychological trauma. This damn friend's name is Otaku, but I'm just gonna call him Otaku from now on. And the damn Otaku says that if it happened perfectly twice, it might as well be considered a superpower. Jinhoo says it's a possibility, but how are they supposed to prove something like that? The Otaku, in his infinite wisdom, says that believing in things is all about mental fortitude. Even if a gorgeous elf girl materialized right in front of him right now, he'd still believe it. Jinhoo tells him they should focus on something a bit more realistic. Like, for example, the 1.24 billion he's supposed to receive. He remembers that out of the 11,000 bitcoins his friend had, 1,000 were because of his character. So he'd better pay up his share or Jinhoo was gonna burn all those action figures. The Otaku obviously says there's no problem giving him the money. The annoying part, of course, is the taxes. Jinhoo immediately asks if this sleep bastard is setting up a tax haven. Are you sending the money to Arabia to avoid paying taxes to the Koreans? His friend is already panicking because Jinhoo completely guessed his plan. And then our boy reveals, yeah, it's not like I majored in economics for nothing. The Otaku explains that his sister has been helping him figure out the rules. Apparently, in Korea, when it comes to Bitcoin, you have to pay way more in taxes. That's why he's setting up a company on an island called Delaware, the perfect place. The initials would be OTA. Guess what it stands for? Otaku. Incredible. He says it's the perfect name, and with this company and this money, he can live a very comfortable life. And not to worry, once everything is settled, he'll send over 1.24 billion. And just like that, on the same day that our boy finished military service, he got his money thanks to his loyal friend. But, at first he only took 500,000 won. The Otaku said it was way too early to celebrate, especially since Jinhoo can't get all the money in one go. Even with the tax haven, once he transfers the money to Jinhoo, the government takes 20%. At least now he got his first 500,000 and the other 740 million was safely stored. Jinhoo was sitting there, totally at peace. If this is a dream, don't wake me up. Now the big question, what should he do with this money? First things first, tell his mom to work less, and maybe buy her some nice clothes. At the mall, he sees a group of people gathering around some kind of fight. As he gets closer, someone is yelling, saying they're going to report this to the owner and make her kneel down. A woman in a coat is yelling, saying she has no idea how expensive these shoes are for someone to just dirty them like that. The security guard in front of her just keeps apologizing. She turns to the woman behind her and demands that she kneel and apologize. Judging by Jinhoo's face, I bet $1 quadrillion that's his mom. Yep, next panel confirms it. Mom. And the other woman is furious, pointing at her shoe, saying she'll make her clean it as an apology. The guard is flustered, telling the janitor to say something. Jinhoo is confused. His mom always told him she worked at a call center. This pisses him off, and just as she starts kneeling, he shows up to save the day. What a legend. Saving your mom is way better than saving a waifu, for God's sake. He looks at the woman and asks why she's making such a big deal over something so minor, forcing someone to kneel over it. His mom looks away, a bit embarrassed. The woman, hands on her hips, asks if he's her son or something. The legend simply says, yeah, I am. But now mom flips the script. She denies it, saying she has no idea who this guy is. She is not his mother. Usually, it's the other way around, but the legend reversed the game. And then he asks if she really thought, even for a second, that he would ever be ashamed of her. The people around them are confused. Is she actually his mom? Jinwoo tells the annoying woman to hurry up and explain herself. She says this damn janitor touched her shoe with a mop. Everyone is recording now. Jinwoo asks if this whole mess is really because of that. The woman starts losing her anger and once again asks if he has any idea how much these shoes cost. But now she's talking to a real one. He casually pulls out 600,000 won and tells her to disappear. But if she wants the money, she'll have to apologize to his mother. If she'd rather leave empty-handed, she's free to go. People around them are whispering. Taking the money now would be humiliating. Jinwoo smirks. If she wants, he can throw the money on the floor so she can crawl for it. Completely flustered, the woman mutters an apology while scanning the crowd to see who's recording. The second she finishes speaking, she snatches the money from his hand and starts counting. Jinwoo calls for her manager. He tells her she better leave barefoot because he just bought the shoes off her feet. If she refuses, he'll report her for theft. She freezes, her face completely warped with shock. Jinwoo ignores her and starts walking away with his mom. The woman keeps complaining, telling him to stop being so stingy. After all, he's not even going to wear them. He shrugs. Of course not. I'm just going to take them home and throw them in the trash. She starts screaming. A fight breaks out. Next thing we know, they're outside. His mom tells him he should go back and make peace with everyone. She tries to insist, but he just hugs her, telling her everything is fine now. He's more concerned about why she's lost so much weight. She thinks he feels sorry for her because of work and says that this was just a one-time thing. Jinwoo tells her she doesn't need to worry. From now on, she won't have to work in a place like this anymore. He'll take care of everything. She looks so happy, saying he's grown up so much. They start talking about money. So son, where did you get your money? Oh, I sold a game account with my friend, Otaku. Right at that moment, his phone rings. A plane is landing. A badass woman steps out. That's Otaku's sister. At the hotel, nobody's acting pure. Everyone is staring. A car covered in Otaku stickers pulls up. Obviously, it's Jinwoo and the legend himself, Otaku. They're here to pick up his sister from the airport. Walking through the hotel, his friend comments that the kid is bold for driving a car like that. That's when someone nearby clears their throat. Oh, Hyunju, the badass, in the tight skirt. She greets both of them, saying it's nice to see the protagonist too, who's standing there asking how she's doing. At a cafe, she asks if he finished his military service, and he says yes. She then comments that he should work at Golden Gate with her. Jinwoo replies that if an international company like that would accept him, he'd be there, in a heartbeat. He then notices she's a bit quiet and asks if something's bothering her. Hyunju turns to Otaku and asks what happened to the money. Because, well, she heard that the company where it was stored went bankrupt. The bastard smirks and says that luckily he managed to sell everything just in time. She looks a little surprised and he confirms, saying he even transferred it all to his company's account. She thinks for a second, then sighs in relief. Thank God everything worked out. Jinwoo figures she had that worried look because she thought her idiot brother lost 11 billion won. She then pulls out a piece of paper and places it on the table. It's the contact for the guy who handles Golden Gate's financial transfers. She explains that if they ever need to bring a large amount of money into the country, they can contact him and he'll take care of it. Suddenly though, Hyunju asks why he sold everything at once when the original plan was to sell it little by little. Jinwoo shrugs and says he just felt like it would be better to sell everything immediately. Then he asks if she missed him. She flatly denies it, saying she has company business to handle and will be in town for 10 days. Their relationship obviously isn't the best, because to him, that sounds way too long. She notices his reaction and reassures him, saying she's staying at this hotel, so he doesn't have to worry. And of course, the company is covering all the expenses. Damn, good companies really are different. As she stands up to leave, she waves goodbye, saying she has things to take care of. Hyunju, poor thing, sits there muttering that her sister always scares him. Just then, she gets a call. It looks like there's going to be a meeting with a company called OPEC. Otaku seems to know they deal with oil and that kind of stuff. And then, suddenly, Jinwoo's eyes activate. The evil appears again, soaring above him. He's getting used to this and is already wondering what the message will be this time. The vision appears. OPEC is about to cut production costs. Hyunju notices his blank stare and asks if he's okay. Jinwoo snaps back and says he just got distracted for a second. She then asks him to always keep an eye on Otaku, because she knows her brother is useless. He laughs and then asks what this meeting is about. She explains that they're discussing production cost cuts. Otaku, just like the rest of us, has no clue what that means. So she explains that in financial markets, people rely on stocks and other assets. But for physical companies like OPEC, all their money is in oil and gold. The United States, even though it's one of the biggest oil producers, uses a ton of oil for wars and ends up needing more than it produces. But with the arrival of shale gas, everything changed, and now the US is exporting oil too. Now the problem is how this will affect the market. If the oil barrels sold in Korea drop below $50 each, tons of companies will go bankrupt. That's why this meeting is happening, to figure out how to cut costs and survive. Right now, a barrel costs $60, and they're already struggling. Jinwoo asks what happens if they reach an agreement. She explains that if that happens, oil prices will skyrocket and everyone will be happy. Well, except for regular people. The only ones who will be happy are those damn billionaires. She then asks why he's suddenly so curious. Jinwoo shrugs. No reason. I just thought it'd be cool if something like that happened. She says she agrees, but the forecasts were indicating something else. Sometime later, stuck in traffic in Otaku's car, Jinwoo wonders why that message appeared this time. If he has this advantage of knowing that oil prices will rise, he could buy a ton of barrels now and sell them later. Of course, it sounds crazy. But then again, he predicted the mortar explosion and also Mountain Hill's collapse. The problem this time is how much to invest. He already set aside 100 million won for his mom, leaving him with 275,000 won to spend. He still has 740 million sitting in Otaku's foreign account, but dumping everything into this would be insane. Suddenly, his friend asks if it happened again. Jinhu notices Takyu looking up like an idiot, so he's sure something must have tipped him off. Jinhu just sighs. Damn it, this bastard notices way too much. Otaku presses him to spill what he saw. That's when Jinhu gets an idea. Some time passes and he explains everything. Now Otaku knows that Jinhu is trying to buy oil barrels to resell. Back home, they start researching prices and see that barrels currently cost $60 each. Right now, Otaku has 12 million won to invest, and our boy only has 600,000, and he's already eager to buy, saying they just need to figure out where to send the money. Apparently, the exchange happens through New York. It's all online, obviously, but only Americans can sell directly. Or actually, are they buying from an American? Jinhu's confused too. He says he wants to spend 300,000. Otaku scoffs, saying he's being modest. He's planning to drop 10 million. Jinhu instantly calls him crazy. You've lost your gan mind. Otaku then asks if 5 million sounds better. Jinhu tries to warn his friend that nothing is guaranteed. His ability isn't confirmed to be a perfect prediction. Takyu, however, insists. He doesn't bet less than 3 million. It's that or nothing. Jinhu gives up trying to convince him otherwise. Thinking about it, the barrel price has already dropped quite a bit. Even if the contract doesn't go as planned, he could still sell at a small loss. But investing 3.3 billion won is terrifying, especially since the reason for investing is still uncertain. But hey, fortune favors the bold. Jinhu starts clicking away, and just like that, he buys everything. Now, all they have to do is wait for the OPEC meeting. By some luck, Jinhu manages to rent an apartment for $80,000. Korean rent works differently, apparently. Seems like you pay for the whole year up front, or maybe even for life because $80,000. What the hell? At least the place looks nicer than expected. His mom is thrilled, saying that now with 2 bedrooms and a higher floor, they can see the sunrise. She's sentimental about it, but for Jinhu, just hearing her say that makes everything worth it. While unpacking, his mom suddenly goes silent. She's holding something from the boxes. They're things that belong to his father. As their homes got smaller and smaller over the years, there was less space to keep these items displayed. Now I feel bad. I joked about the dad going out for milk, but looks like the poor guy got Ice Kid instead. A photo of a house, one that his father worked hard to build for them. But after he died, they had no money left. They probably sold it. Watching his mom hold the picture, Jinhu asks if she still thinks about his dad a lot. She says, of course. He worked so hard just to die like that. If only he had lived a little longer, he could have seen days like this. Jinhu looks at the photo too. His mom starts crying. She suddenly gets up and tells him to finish setting up his room, because she wants to rest for a bit. Looking around the kitchen, Jinhu realizes they need new furniture and appliances. As soon as he sees his mom carrying the box, Jinhu tells her to stop working so much. He'll take care of it. That's when he hands her a card with 100 million won in the account. Bet's like 56 cents, huh? Damn, Korean currency is worth nothing. Just kidding. That card actually has $70,000, which is a lot. And his mom immediately starts smacking him, telling him he better not be handing out money to everyone. She reassures him that she's already saved up a lot, so he doesn't need to worry about her. But he insists, telling her to think of this money as him just taking care of her. After paying for the apartment, giving money to his mom, and handling everything else, he's left with 275 million won in his account. In theory, he wouldn't need to worry about working for the next 20 years. But obviously, our investor isn't going to be satisfied with just that. Sometime later, Otaku arrives at the house carrying a bunch of stuff. Looks like he brought jjamyeon, that Korean black bean noodle dish. But dude brought BTS. What the hell? Is he feeding a bear? Oh wait, those bags are actually toilet paper. Jinhu is completely lost as to why this idiot brought that as a housewarming gift. Otaku asks what he wanted instead. Jinhu tells him he could have brought a TV, a fridge, something you see if you will. At dinner, they talk about that bankrupt company from earlier. Obviously, it was a disaster. Everyone got screwed. The bitcoins of anyone who invested, poof, gone. The bastards declared bankruptcy, but they're being hunted down by the police and the banks. Otaku says that the fact that Jinhu predicted it at the perfect time was insane. Jinhu shrugs, saying it was just a coincidence. But Otaku insists, saying that nothing happens by chance. And he has a theory. Jinhu wants to know what it is. Otaku says his power only activates during crisis. That's how heroes are born. So be sure it has something to do with that. He slams his hand on the table and declares that Jinhu has an incredible oracle eye. Jinhu just stares at him. His friend of his really has a mental problem. He tells him to stop worrying about naming the power and focus on the OPEC meeting. Because so far, everything has gone well. But if this time things go wrong, they'll lose a shitload of money. Otaku stays chill, saying, nah, it's fine. You have the oracle eye. The next day, he shows up at Jinhu's place, because the results are coming out. Jinhu feels like he's trapped in some eternal suspense scene, because the results just won't come. Since the start of the meeting, prices had already dropped 3%. That means $70,000 went straight into the abyss. Jinhu asks if Otaku is still calm about this, Otaku confidently says he isn't scared because he trusts the Oracle Eye. To distract himself, Jinhu decides to play a video game with him. But the damn nerd only plays dating simulators with hot anime girls. Meanwhile, money keeps dropping, but Jinhu tries to stay stoic. It doesn't matter. Losing that money wouldn't ruin his life. It's not like $100,000 less would have let him retire anyway. But at the same time, it's scary to think that if he loses it all, he'll have to go back to working terrible jobs. He dozes off and wakes up to Otaku screaming. The OPEC results are out. Every news outlet reports that OPEC reached an agreement to reduce production costs. Otaku immediately asks for the new oil price, and when they check, it's already up to $73. Within minutes of the announcement, prices had shot up by 20%. Jinhu instantly tells Otaku to check the account, and besides that, they should sell now, because he has no premonition of what happens next. Otaku obeys immediately. Sometime later, they're calculating their profits. Damn, when you've got a money cheat code, life is easy. The bastards made $630,000. Jinhu just sits there, hands on his head, looking like a complete idiot. But since our boy invested way less, he's only walking away with $60,000. What an unfair world. Otaku, on the other hand, says that if he had invested the full $10 million, he would have made a fortune. But that doesn't even matter compared to one important fact. This was the third time. Luck might have helped once or twice, but third time? That's certainty. Jinhu's ability to see the future was real and accurate. Jinhu sits there, feeling like a fool, wondering if he really has a hero-level power like in the movies. Normally, when someone gets a special ability, you imagine a strong guy running around kicking ass, punching people, and taking down villains. But in a modern world without violence, any hero with physical strength is useless. Machines can do all of that. The ability to see the future, though, that was something untouchable. Not even the most powerful computers in the world could come close to something like this. Otaku immediately wants to know if he can predict everything, from sports results to accidents. If his ability actually worked like that, it would be insane. But Jinhu just wants to figure out when this all started and why it happens. As much as he's a damn idiot, Otaku has a point. It all started with a mortar accident when he was about to die, which proves his ability only activates in emergencies. Obviously, the bastard is already thinking about using this as a safety net. Like if he's about to lose everything, maybe the little eagle will show up to save him. The goal now is to figure out why it appeared the first time and how to make it appear again. While discussing this, Otaku mentions that the first time it appeared was with Bitcoin, and the second time was while talking to his sister. Considering those two cases, maybe his power only works for financial situations. Jinhu finds that odd because of the mortar situation. Otaku suggests that maybe there's one small exception, life or death situations. Then suddenly, his friend spins around in his chair and asks what happened after that accident. Jinhu explains that it turned into a huge scandal because the mortar malfunction was caused by corruption and low-quality materials. Obviously, the companies that provided the materials lost massive value in the stock market. Otaku points out that in a way, it wasn't just about his life. It was also financial. Jinhu agrees. It makes sense. After all, in this world, everything is directly or indirectly related to money. Sometime later, Otaku makes the offer they both knew was coming. Jinhu would use his power to see the future, and Otaku would provide all the investment money they needed. Jinhu thinks it's a solid deal. After all, investing 600,000 won is nothing compared to 10 million. Not to mention, he has no idea how long his ability will last. For all he knows, this could be the last time it ever activates. And since Otaku is willing to take all the losses, while still splitting the profit, if the investment fails, Jinhu owes nothing. The offer is almost too good. Jinhu starts wondering if this contract is even fair. It doesn't sound bad, but realistically, there's one big problem. Even if his power is real, there's no guarantee that what he sees is 100% accurate. Jinhu is coming up with a bunch of excuses, but Otaku, high on greed, doesn't care. He just tells him to shut up. All he cares about is, if his power is real, then they have the perfect chance to get insanely rich. He has 13 billion won to invest. Together, they can make ridiculous amounts of money. All Jinhu has to do is shake his hand, and together, they'll dive into the world of investing. Jinhu hesitates, then asks, "And what if I don't shake your ugly ass hand?" Otaku's hands starts glowing. He dramatically declares, "Then we will never see each other again. Now come, my friend. Join me in the world of the rich." Jinhu is literally shaking, when suddenly, his phone rings. It's someone named Minyoung, inviting him for drinks in Hongdae. Jinhu replies, "If Kyung's gonna be there, I'm definitely coming." Then immediately says goodbye to Otaku. "Got new plans? Be back later. Guarantee it's some hot chick, huh?" Dune abandoned poor Otaku in the room in under 15 seconds. Arriving at the bar, some guys immediately call out to him, Sergeant Kang. Jinhu greets his friend, saying he's just a reserve now. And right away, his friend introduces the real reason he showed up in 16 seconds. The only way this future-seeing investor could ever end up broke is sitting right in front of him. Her name? Shin Yuri. On the right. On the left, Hwang Jive. Another walking danger. Was Jinhu safe? Not anymore. He's already reaching for a drink. Looks like Jinhu is looking for someone named Kyung, but his friend says he'll be late. The guy then asks if Jinhu is going back to college next year, since Jinhu says he's thinking about it. Now that he's paid for the house and has no money problems, maybe graduating quickly would be the best move. Shin Yuri stands up, raising her glass. "It's an honor to serve you, senior. all elegant. She takes a sip, the little show-off artist. She again raises her glass again when Jinwoo compliments her drinking skills. That's when someone else enters the bar. Jung Ki-hyun. Looks like he's Jinwoo's senior from the military or something. Jinwoo wants the girl in the group to serve the guy, while they talk about work and business. His friend mentions 4 companies merging into one giant corporation. The problem? When 4 companies merge, they don't keep all their employees. Some people are getting left behind. Jinwoo asks what this dumbass will do if he gets fired. He says he's already interested in investments. Several bottles later, the guy claims, "There's no such thing as a good investor in this country. There are only good entrepreneurs. But they need someone brave and with capital to start making real moves in the city." And meanwhile, Yuri is taking a picture under the table. Is she recording? Didn't I say this girl was dangerous? The clueless guy sitting next to her finally asks, "What the hell are you doing?" All innocent, she explains. She was supposed to go out with a friend, but since she's here instead, she's now calling that friend over. And when she says the name, Siona, the whole bar freezes. Jinwoo starts sweating cold. Either this girl is dangerous as hell, or something happened. But it's too late to say no. She's already walking in. If you ask me, Yuri is more dangerous. This girl in the short black skirt isn't as bad. I mean, not that she's bad, just not as much. Jinwoo is sitting there, looking like a fool, sweating bullets. She recognizes him immediately. Kang Jinwoo? Damn. First time seeing each other since they broke up. This is the ex. So our guy isn't a broke loser like us, huh? Bastard already had a girlfriend before the manhwa even started. Damn him. A few seconds later, it's just the two of them at the table. She mentions it's been 2 years since they last saw each other. Jinwoo confirms, saying he's doing well. Then asks if she's happy with that senior guy. She says yes, they are. Looks like she's dating Go Junyoung now. Our boy lost to the Gucci King. Honestly, the guy looks more like her brother than her boyfriend. But whatever. Guess what? Jinwoo got dumped. His bastard is the 3rd son of a rich corporate tycoon. And right after she and Jinwoo broke up, and he went to the military, she started dating him. Now Jinwoo is just staring at her, looking like an absolute idiot. She then says he's changed a lot. She used to think he was a bit plain. Damn. So she was even worse before? Our boy really got her during the bad phase. She apologizes for breaking up with him when his life got hard. Jinwoo simply says, "It's fine. It's in the past." And now, she getting all soft, biting her red lips, giving him that look. She says, "Since the beginning, I always liked you a lot." Jinwoo doesn't like that. She hasn't even made a sad face yet, and he already wants to know what she means by that. She answers, "It might sound weird, but I'd always liked you." She says it's because he radiates confidence and that's what she always loved about him. Jinwoo then asks, "Then why did you break up with me?" She just shrugs. "Obviously, I took the opportunity when it came. The opportunity to date a rich guy." Yeah, exactly. She even says it outright like it's nothing to hide. She adds that she couldn't miss her chance to achieve her dreams. Her dream apparently is to marry rich. Obviously, Jinwoo wants to know what the hell she means by that. Now she's frozen, awkward as hell, realizing she just messed up. She gets up all weird and stiff, saying she's leaving. But Jinwoo isn't letting this go. "What do you mean by your dream?" She just looks at him once, then walks away, thinking to herself that her dream is to be successful. Meanwhile, Jinwoo just sits there, slumped in his chair like a piece of trash. 2 years ago, before his father's funeral even happened, their house was already taken away. All of his relatives turned their backs on him, and Siona broke up with him. Before he even had time to grieve, he was shipped off the military. Meanwhile, his mother was left alone to work and survive. Man, that was a brutal hit. Not many people could have survived that. But recently, everything changed. His investments paid off and his first big success was in oil trading. Now he's sitting there, full of himself, wondering, what exactly is success, huh? Right at that moment, the eagle appears in front of him. Jinwoo even jokes, "You here for a drink too, little guy?" But as always, the creature takes flight, soaring over him. And when he sees the message, his eyes light up. "So, this is my future?" And of course, the damn author won't tell us what it says. But judging by his reaction, it's good news. Next thing we know, he's at Otaku's house, waking him up, yelling about something important. His friend groggily asks what he wants. Jinwoo, all hyped up, says, "I want success." No way. There's no way he's still hung up on that boring-ass Siona. Shin Yuri is 10 times better. The real queen. Morning hits, and the hangover kicks in. That's why they say, drinking is stealing happiness from your future self. Don't drink, kids. Otaku, being a true friend, already ordered him a burger to help him recover. My god, is this an American diet? Obviously, Otaku wants to know what happened last night. Jinwoo just shrugs. I don't remember. Now was he lying, or was he actually so drunk he forgot? Otaku starts roasting him immediately. Says he came home all excited, yelling about how he saw something important. Jinwoo sighs. Alright, I'll explain. He asks Otaku, "Have you ever invested in anything before?" Otaku scoffs. Of course not. Meanwhile, Jinwoo actually studied finance in college and was part of investment groups. But when he started investing for real, he only had 1,000,001 to work with, and he lost almost all of it. Basically, every time he invested, he lost 50%. Otaku stares at him. "So you study all that, just to learn nothing?" Jinwoo explains, "I only invested for a year. It takes time to get good at it." They pool their money together and realize. Right now they have 13 billion won. Jinwoo knows. That's more money than most people will ever see in their entire lives. The problem is that in investing, the amount of money you have matters. If you have 10 million won to make 100 million, you need a 1000% return. But if you have 10 billion won, just 1% profit will also make you 100 million. The only reason Otaku made so much from the oil trade was because he invested way more. But obviously, the more you invest, the bigger the risk. Otaku asks, "So, when are we investing?" Jinhu raises an eyebrow. Why is a guy with 13 billion even thinking about investing? Otaku gives a flawless response. The more money you have, the better. So I want more. This guy is just a little greedy. His friend then asks what Jinhu plans to do with the money. Jinhu says he's waiting. To invest, he obviously needs a vision first. If the eagle doesn't show up, he's not doing anything. He's not an idiot. And considering what his friend said, he needs to see more finance-related stuff to increase the chances of triggering his ability. Some time passes, and over the past few days, he's been reading countless economic articles. Anything related to investments, moving money, stock trends. He's watching everything, waiting for his power to activate again. But obviously, public information is pretty useless. When people say something will go up, it's already gone up. And when they say it will go down, it's already dropped. So basically, you don't benefit from any of it. Now Jinhu has a new problem. After all these days, nothing's activated. I'm still confused. Did nothing actually happen that night at the bar? He saw something but forgot. What the hell happened? Otaku suggests that maybe it's time they make a contract to split everything 50-50ths. They sign the contract. Hope our boy read all the fine print. Now he's leaving to grab a coffee. But just then, Otaku tells him there's no coffee, and at the same time, Jinhu's phone rings. Ona's voice on the other end asks, "Is this Jinhu?" He says, "Yeah. Boys, it's her. Shinyuri, the queen." Jinhu immediately remembers her, the orange-haired bombshell from the bar. He asks, "What's up, baby?" She asks if he's free, and says she'd like to grab a nice hot coffee. At a Starbucks from the deep web, Jinhu walks in. She stands up all excited, telling him to sit across from her. Okay, I made up the cozy seat next to her part. She actually tells him to sit in front. She thanks him for coming, even though she called him out of nowhere. Jinhu says it's no problem, since he was near a friend's place anyway. She notices him staring at her. Yuri asks, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Jinhu smirks. "You look like one of those K-pop idols doing dance covers." She fixes her hair, looking a little flustered. "So does that mean I'm pretty?" They keep talking, and he finds out that she's from Cheongnam, which means she's filthy rich. Man of few words, Jinhu immediately asks, "So why'd you call me?" Yuri says she wanted to apologize for calling Siona that day. She didn't know Siona was his ex. Jinhu apologizes too, saying he knows she had no idea about their history. She then asks if he's going back to college next semester, now that his military service is over. He says yes. She mentions that they'll probably end up in the same class. Interesting. Then suddenly, she says she wants to ask him a favor. Jinhu sits up. Why is she acting all shy now? Is she about to confess? Crap. He doesn't know what to say. Should he reject her? Should he accept? The problem is, she's way too pretty to say no to. Damn, is that how this works? This guy is the real deal. But then she reveals she actually just wants help buying a new phone because she's afraid of getting scammed. Jinhu realizes he was completely overthinking it. He agrees but mentions he's not great with electronics. She smiles and says just having him there is enough. Jinhu thinks to himself, Otaku would have been perfect for this. That bastard buys every phone and gadget on the market. At the phone store, Yuri walks in and immediately asks for his Samsung L6. Jinhu sits down, while the store clerk starts explaining all the features. Our fool just sits there thinking, damn, buying a phone these days is a hassle. It should be simpler. And honestly, he wasn't even needed there. So he wanders off looking around. He picks up the L6, remembering that before he went to the military, the latest model was only the L3. And that's when the bird's power activates. The eagle enters the store soaring over him. This time, the message reads, L6 discontinued. Jinhu frowns. He's confused. What the hell does that mean? I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? The phone is getting discontinued. But let's see where this goes. Yuri notices him looking off into space. What are you staring at? Jinhu blinks. Oh, just a little mosquito flew by. That's all. Of course, the bastard is happy. Another vision had happened. On the way home, Yuri mentions that she thought about getting the gold one, but she liked the blue and chose that instead. Jinhu casually agrees. Yeah, it looks nice. But it's gonna be discontinued soon. She frowns. Huh. Jinhu freezes. He was thinking about it so much that he accidentally said it out loud. Trying to cover it, he suddenly says he has to go, because he's got some business to take care of. Waves goodbye and dips. Yuri watches him leave, thinking he's leaving way too soon. She sighs, wishing she could have at least treated him to a meal for helping her out. Meanwhile, at Otaku's house, Jinhu bursts in, yelling his friend's name. T-A-K-Q-U. They said AMCONJL6. Otaku pulls out his phone. Jinhu points. That thing is getting discontinued. Otaku is confused as hell. Why? Of course, Jinhu has no idea. Samsung has tons of phone models, and this one is one of their best sellers. But when it comes to premium models, it still loses to Apple. Apple hasn't even bitten the damn apple yet. Recently, Samsung has been dominating the market, thanks to the L5 and L6. The L5 sold 50 million units, and the L6 is expected to hit 70 million. Takyu says it's one of the biggest global successes, so why the hell would they discontinue it? He wonders if it might be a patent dispute since a single phone has over 200,000 patents involved. Jinhu doesn't think so. Even if Samsung loses a patent battle, they can just pay the fees or buy another license. Besides, Samsung has been making phones since the 2000s. It's not like they don't own most of their own patents. Now they need to figure out why the L6 will be discontinued and when it will happen. Jinhu asks Otaku, what kind of news could cause something like this? Otaku explains, it's tough. Usually, if there's an issue, the company just pays for damages. Phones have problems all the time. They can't just cancel an entire model because of 1 or 2 defects. They sit there thinking. Time passes. That night, Otaku suddenly lets out a scream. What the hell? Lying in bed, he stares at his phone. It exploded. He was playing games, left it charging beside him, and now the thing is burning up, which is insane since he bought it just a week ago. It's basically a time bomb. Instantly, both of them realize. This is why the L6 will be discontinued. The next morning, 3 days since the phone launched and reports are already spreading about L6 units exploding. Samsung is downplaying it as always. Technically, 1 phone in a million exploding is considered normal. But in this case, 1 in 10,000 is blowing up. That's way too frequent. Yet strangely, sales don't seem to be affected yet. Otaku is just happy they finally understood why Jinhu's vision happened. But Jinhu has a different question. How do we make money off this? This is way more complicated than buying oil barrels or pulling cash out of an account. They'll need to watch for a few days to figure out the best move. The next day, a Samsung rep shows up and replaces Otaku's phone. But there's a catch. To get a replacement, customers aren't allowed to post about it online. Oh, those sneaky bastards. They're silencing the public. But our duo quickly realizes the Samsung rep wasn't even surprised to see Otaku's phone in that condition. Meaning, this is happening a lot. Phones are something people keep extremely close to them. If a phone isn't safe or is literally exploding, that's game over for the product. No way Samsung can keep producing it, which means they're about to take a massive financial hit, especially if they have to refund all the sales. Now Jinhu needs to figure out, how do they take advantage of this? Otaku tries to explain. Okay, this is tricky. Like, here's how it works. You borrow stocks from a company, sell them at the current high price, let's say 100,000 won per share. Then when the price drops, you buy back the same amount of shares for way less money. You return the shares, but you keep the extra cash. That's called short selling. Jinhu listens, but he's already thinking ahead. Now they just need to find the right moment to strike. Since the calculation is based on the number of shares and not the amount of money, does that make sense? If not, just sell to get rich. But they'd need to invest a lot. Otaku is already ready to throw in 4 million. But Jinhu insists, trying to find another way to make even more profit. This seems like it's similar to binary options in Korea or something. And there's no way they're going to ask Otaku's sister for help. She would never let them risk 13 billion on something this uncertain. But Otaku says not to worry. He knows a guy, a former president of their investment club. Some people say he's a weirdo. Others say he's a genius. There are 2 kinds of geniuses in the world. The badasses who are good at everything, and the weirdos who are good at just one thing, but no one cares about them. And obviously, this guy grew up in Australia, moved to Korea later in life, and was a math prodigy. In the middle of everything, he got involved in investments and got completely addicted. Since he was insanely good with numbers, he became a beast at investing. One of his first investments, he put in 500,000 won and walked away with 5 million. Obviously, like any good investor, he lost sometimes. But if you look at the big picture, he was still making money. Even though he started with just 500,000 won. By the time Jinhu met him, he already had 300 million to invest. The only problem? He had no real capital. If he had started with way more money, he'd have 6 billion by now. Then his lucky streak ended. Some chemical battery company. Looked a lot like LG's logo, huh? LC. Yeah, probably them. He thought his stock was undervalued and would double, but then an accident happened. His entire fortune went up in flames. Broke. Or not, because this madman was fearless and kept holding on to his shares. He refused to sell. He was convinced everything would recover, but in the end, it didn't. He really went bankrupt, completely screwed. And all because he was messing around with binary options from some one-egg guru. If he had actually bought the stock, none of this would have happened. At a restaurant, here he is, the great investor. Looks exhausted, like he hasn't left the house in weeks, probably watches anime all day. This guy looks like me. Jinhu introduces Otaku and asks how he's been since he dropped out of college after his financial meltdown. Stangyep says he's been driving for Uber and just trying to survive. After losing everything and working as a driver, he finally understood. Even 101 has value. Jinhu gets weirdly emotional. This guy is an inspiration. He suffered, lost everything, but never gave up. Stangyep asks why Jinhu called him out here. Jinhu explains, he's interested in creating an account for futures trading. Basically, the futures trading, you say, in 5 days, I'll buy this stock for 5,000 won. The seller agrees. No matter what happens to the price, you have to pay 5,000 and he has to sell it to you. If the price goes up to 10,000, you get a great deal. If it drops to 5,1, you're paying 5,000 for something worthless. That's why it's called futures trading. You buy in the future. Unlike regular stocks where you sell at the market price. If the stock drops, you sell for less. If it rises, you sell for profit. They spend a while calculating things, but we already get the idea. Jinhu does some math and finds out If everything goes right, he could make 900 billion. Obviously, Sang-Yap immediately calls him insane. That's never gonna happen. Everything usually goes wrong. This guy is a realist. But really, this is what happens to people who buy online courses. He had 300 million in his account. Now he's driving Uber for 100 bucks a day. This is why courses ruin lives. Sang-Yap immediately dismisses Jinhoo's theory. The L6 just launched. It's a massive success. But Jinhoo just smirks. It's gonna be discontinued. Sang-Yap instantly guesses it's because of the explosions. But he says, that won't be enough. To cover himself, Jinhoo plays it safe. It's a possibility, but you can never be 100% sure. Sang-Yap warns him, be careful. You could end up like me, broke, screwed, and miserable. With that, he waves goodbye. Now Jinhoo has everything he needs to move. The decision is clear. Buy high and rake in a fortune. Or buy when it starts dropping and profit a little. He's sure that the price will drop by at least 10%. Since it jumped 10% with the L6 launch, they'll probably drop at least 20%. Some news outlets are starting to report about the L6 explosions, and these two maniacs are already pulling up their investment screens, getting ready to spend big. Jinhoo slams the enter key. Not sure how much they invested, but there's only 800 million left in the account. If they really put in all 12 billion, these guys are insane. Jinhoo doesn't feel so brave now, sitting there practically shitting himself. And then the worst happens. The next day, Samsung's stock goes oop by 8%, and his futures bet? Absolute disaster. He's about to lose everything. Jinhoo is just sipping his drink, already noticing that Otaku isn't looking too happy either. Looks like Samsung is successfully covering up the explosions, handling replacements insanely fast. But is he still confident? Not so much. Because, well, the eagle gave him the vision. Park asks if Samsung will announce the discontinuation tomorrow. Jinhoo just shrugs. I hope so. Next day, Samsung's CEO takes the stage. Obviously, he addresses the battery issue, says they'll be replacing them, and apologizes to everyone. But then, the problem. Instead of discontinuing, they announce that they'll replace 6 million units for free. For Jinhoo, this is a disaster. The public opinion is now weirdly positive. They're willing to replace 6 million phones without charging anyone. That's actually impressive. Plus, they could just swap the batteries in the returned units and sell them in poorer countries. And even after all this, Samsung's stock only dropped 1.5%. This damn company just proved how meticulous the giants of the industry really are. Otaku is pacing around the room, devastated. Of the 12 billion they had, 6 billion was already gone. And now Jinhoo's unfair contract is weighing on his mind. No, he's making his friend lose 6 billion, since his own share of the investment was much smaller. Now he's questioning his power. Did he misread the vision? Why is everything happening like this? That night, Jinhoo lies in bed thinking, with 6 billion, someone could live a luxurious life forever. Even spending 100 million per month would be more than enough. But they lost all of that in a single day. Now to recover from a 50% loss, they need to make 100% profit. If the situation doesn't change before their futures bet expires, the billions will vanish. Jinhoo is being suffocated by his own fear. And Otaku? He can't sleep either. They both wake up in the middle of the night and go out for drinks. Might as well get used to being broke. They're already cosplaying as homeless men, preparing for the depressing future ahead. And of course the classic drama begins. I told you shouldn't have invested. No, I believe in your power. But time passes. Samsung keeps recovering the phones. Both new buyers and those getting replacements are actually satisfied. And Samsung's stock keeps climbing. Of the 13 billion they originally had, only 3.6 billion remains. Luckily, they invested some in normal stocks. Otherwise, they'd be fully bankrupt. Otaku leans against the window, waving goodbye to the 13 billion. Fly away, my beautiful money. Jinhoo realizes this isn't even comfortable for him anymore. He's already lost 600 million in this mess, and now only 1 week remains before their futures contract expires. If nothing happens, it's truly over. He remembers Sang-Yap warning him, don't invest in this. You'll end up broke like me. Jinhoo buries his face in his hands. Did he misunderstand the vision? Or did he analyze it incorrectly? Then, the scene changes. A plane. A man is using a fire extinguisher on the floor. Nearby, a woman is covered in blood. Looks like a Samsung bomb exploded on her head. Oh my god. But wait, it was just a dream. Damn it. I hate when this happens. You can't just show me a scene like that and then say, haha, just kidding, dream sequence. But Jinhoo is clutching his head. His eye is glowing. And now, he has a headache. Oh, so it's actually a vision. The plane ticket on the floor reads December 9. There are 4 days left. Jinhoo immediately tells Otaku, that's how long we have before everything unfolds. If his power is real, they have nothing to worry about anymore. But Otaku checks Samsung's stock. Everything still looks normal. But Jinhoo, poetically dramatic, mutters, nothing is over until everything is over. And then, more reports come in. Some Samsung batteries are exploding again. A contact point inside the phone is causing fires. Boom, the news hits. A Samsung phone exploded mid-flight, injuring a passenger. Oh hell no. No one wants to board a plane with a bomb. Me neither. And just like that, the L6 is officially banned for being taken aboard flights. That morning, the stock market opens. Samsung's shares drop 10%. The experts, of course, immediately say, This is the perfect time to buy more Samsung stock. But Jinwoo? Hell no. Let them buy it. Meanwhile, at Samsung's executive meeting, the vice president enters. Jin-young. We already know what's coming. They're all discussing the battery explosions and the injured passenger. Some executives suggest replacing the phones again. But now, public opinion is already ruined. A so-called strategist suggests we should do another recall. Everyone in the room agrees that buying time is the priority. The problem for the vice president is how to do that without losing public trust. Everyone in the room knows there are methods, but no one has the guts to suggest them. He wonders, what would his father do? The man who built this company from the ground up, who then passed it to his father, who then passed it to him because he was sick. Weakest nepotism in Korea. He looks around the room, then notices a model ship on the table. It reminds him of what his grandfather once taught him. The paradox of the ship of Theseus. A piece of wood falls off, you replace it. Another piece falls, you replace it again. After 1,000 years, not a single original piece remains. So, is it still the same ship, or is it an entirely different one? The same goes for this company. The original employees are all long dead. Everything has changed. So is it still the same company? He gathers his courage. After considering everything, he makes the decision. For now, they will discontinue the L6. Everyone who bought one can get a full refund. And if they prefer, they can exchange it for another product. The execs freeze. This isn't just losing the money they already made. They're losing future profits too. Greedy bastards. But the vice president slams the table. It doesn't matter how much money we lose. We can always make more. But we cannot afford to lose the people's trust. This was their last chance to recover public opinion. One of the glasses-wearing nerds stands up, saying he'll prepare the announcement immediately. 1:40 p.m. The official statement drops. My phone is busted, guys. We're taking it off the market. Our fools are stunned into silence. They just stare at each other. Then, they celebrate. The cursed phone is finally discontinued. Investors panic. Everyone starts selling their shares. Samsung's stock price crashes, the biggest drop since 2008. Meanwhile, an investment firm notices something. Someone bet big on Samsung's downfall, and their profit margin, almost 1000x. Which hate? They quickly trace it back to Golden Gate. Looks like they used Otaku's sister's firm after all. Everyone is losing their minds. This is insane. No one invests billions out of nowhere. They rush out, desperate to find out who the hell did this. Meanwhile, look at these two idiots, glowing, grinning at their screens, watching Samsung's stock melt. Their futures bet, already up over 1000%. Their safer bet, up 21%. They just stare at the computer, silent. The numbers keep rising. 3,800% profit? Bro, can they buy Korea at this point? And then, they completely lose it. Screaming, throwing everything in the air. Pure chaos. In the world of investments, one person's gain is another's loss. This time, the world's disaster became their blessing. Their money has now grown to 685 billion won. That's about $470 million. Damn. And to think Elon Musk has like 800 times this amount. Bastard. But whatever. These two are now multi-billionaires. And obviously, they cash out immediately. No risks. No waiting. Otaku just stares at his tablet, watching the insane numbers. Jinwoo nods. Yeah, I didn't even know numbers could have this many zeros. Otaku reminds him. Since their contract says they split profits 50-50ths, Jinwoo's cut is 336 billion won. That's enough to build a skyscraper out of cash. Jinwoo just sits there, dazed, still trying to process it. How the hell does he have this much money? What the hell is he even supposed to do with this much? A few days ago, they were terrified of losing everything. Now, the opposite happened. Jinwoo was grateful to see that Otaku didn't abandon him when things went south. And now that they won big, he's splitting the profit equally. Finding people like this is rare. How sweet. This whole experience taught him something. The true power of seeing the future. One tiny piece of information, a phone getting discontinued, changed everything. But what if he saw something bigger? A financial crisis? A war? A natural disaster? Otaku immediately shuts him down. Chill out, dreamer. First, we need to keep this secret. Jinwoo agrees. He only trusts his friend and his mom. No one else. Otaku is still celebrating, while Jinwoo starts feeling the weight of his actions. Samsung is one of Korea's biggest companies. Their loss was basically the nation's loss. Meanwhile, Chinese and American tech stocks are booming because everyone is pulling their money out of Samsung. Otaku tells him, cheer up, we can cause this. We just bet on the future. There's nothing to feel guilty about. And you know what? I agree. When it comes to money, patriotism disappears. Always has. Always will. This time, it was their turn to be the ones profiting. Now they're just sitting back, dreaming. What to do with all this cash? Jinwoo is slouched in his chair thinking, guess I'll have to open my own tax haven too. Not to mention, the money he just made is enough to live a luxurious life forever without doing a single thing. But come on, you really think he's satisfied? Well, so he really did get a prophecy at the bar, one he hasn't even mentioned to Otaku yet. Wait a second, the words on the vision, OTK Corporation, and the CEO, it's him. Is he about to steal his friend's company? Nah, he's a good guy. He shakes hands with Otaku, and no, they're going all the way to the top together. Jinwoo realizes something. A CEO doesn't have to be the person with the most shares. They just need to be the one making the decisions. For him, this prophecy only meant one thing, that in the future, he and Otaku would run OTK together. This also makes things way easier. With both of them in the same company, they can just leave all their money in the same tax haven. That way, not a single cent goes to those greedy Korean tax collectors. Otaku suddenly asks to see the contract again. He scans through it, then with zero hesitation, rips it apart. Jinhoo jumps. What the hell are you doing? Otaku looks at him. This whole 50-50 thing doesn't make sense anymore. From now on, it's 80-20. Jinhoo freezes. Is this a bad deal for him? Wait, no. Something feels off. There's no way. Is he seriously about to? Otaku smirks. You get 80. I take 20. Jinhoo just stares, completely lost, like he doesn't even know his own friend. Come on, man. Even I know what kind of guy Otaku is by now. Jinhoo asks if he ate something weird. Otaku just shrugs. Just a black bean instant noodle. The truth is, the moment Jinhoo said he'd stick with him until the end, Otaku made his decision. He was willing to keep going, even if it meant earning 20%, because in his eyes, Jinhoo's ability to see the future was far more valuable than money itself. Besides, with their first big win, Jinhoo now has enough money to invest on his own. Otaku probably thought Jinhoo would leave him behind after becoming insanely rich. But Jinhoo was thinking the opposite. Even with all this money, they're playing on the international stage. Pooling their billions together is far better than going solo. Still, Jinhoo asks, "Are you insane? You're giving up 30%. Otaku just grins. "I'm not giving up anything. I still own 20% of OTK. That's more than enough." Jinhoo argues that this only makes sense if the company actually profits in the future. But Otaku says, "I know you'll make it happen." Now they're in it together until the future. Otaku claps Jinhoo on the shoulder. "You're the new CEO of OTK Corporation." And just like that, the prophecy is fulfilled. Jinhoo feels ashamed for ever doubting his friend, even if just for a moment, because when he really thinks about it, ever since that first night when Jinhoo told Otaku to sell everything, Otaku trusted him every single time. In the end, Jinhoo was the one who couldn't see things clearly. He gives a thumbs up. All right, now it really begins. One condition, though. He better not spend a single cent on that shady-ass Siona chick. She dumped him for a guy in Gucci. Let her rot. They start chatting about Christmas plans. Last year, Jinhoo was stuck in the military. Meanwhile, Otaku spent Christmas with Jinhoo's mom so she wouldn't be alone. Damn, real one. Jinhoo remembers the address Otaku's sister gave him. He searches his pockets and finds the scrap of paper. Holding it up, he says, "I'm gonna grab some cash and buy some gifts. At a real estate office. Or maybe a rental agency. I don't speak Korean, man. I'm just guessing." A woman is complaining about not being able to pay her bills this month. Then the main character enters. She immediately offers him coffee, sees his broke student energy, and instantly assumes he's looking for a tiny, cheap apartment. She figures, hey, even a small commission is better than nothing. She asks, "Are you looking for a studio?" Which is a polite way of saying, "You want a shoebox to sleep in?" I mean, it's Asia. Like those Japanese capsule hotels. Barely enough space to lie down. But Jinhoo just shakes his head. "I'm not here for a studio. I'm here to buy a house." She pauses. "How much are you looking to pay for rent?" Jinhoo corrects her. "I'm not renting. I'm buying." She freezes. Jinhoo repeats it. "I'm buying." She still looks stunned. Meanwhile, Jinhoo stands up and starts looking through the listings. She quickly recovers and begins explaining house prices. Depends on location, size, condition, etc. But prices range from 300 million to 1 billion won for luxury homes. Then Jinhoo opens the door, points at a house across the street. "How much for that one?" She glances over. 600 million. Wait, isn't that his childhood home? The one his father built? Man, this guy's too wholesome. Jinhoo goes quiet for a second, then says, "I want that one." The agent is confused. But Jinhoo isn't joking. She has no reason to refuse. Her commission would be massive. She quickly heads out to check the market for similar listings. But Jinhoo stops her. "No, I want that house. Specifically." She sighs, telling him to look at the garage. "There's a car parked there, genius. Someone already lives there." Jinhoo replies, "I know, but it's not like the owner would refuse an offer above market value." The agent nods. "True, but why would someone pay more than market price?" She doesn't get it. Jinhoo walks over to his suitcase, pulls out a stack of golden brown bills. So big it might as well be a gold bar. Slams it on the table. "I'm willing to pay 200 million above market price." She stares at the mountain of cash. A total of 3 billion won. Jinhoo adds, "If you make this happen, I'll throw in a bonus." Cut to the current family living in the house. The wife had always dreamed of moving out of an apartment into a house. She finally got her chance when this place was being sold at a discount. Probably back when Jinhoo's mother was forced to sell it below market value. The house was in terrible shape. Moldy, falling apart, trashed. That's how they got a great deal and made a decent profit. But even after all this time, the house never appreciated in value. Still worth the same 500 million won. She'd been trying to sell it for a little more, but no buyers. Then, she gets a call from the real estate office. Someone's offering 800 million. She freezes. That's enough to buy a luxury apartment way better than this place. But this woman, she's a sneaky one. Look at that face. Even has a plaque on the wall that says, "Humble beginnings lead to a prosperous future." She schemes with her husband, and now she's sure. If someone's offering 200 million over market price, there's a reason. So a little while later, she calls back. I won't sell for 800 million, but if you offer 1 billion, maybe I'd consider it. Her plan? See how low they'll negotiate, then accept it right before they walk away. Later that evening, she's already thinking about deposit, wants to secure at least 30% upfront to make sure they don't back out. Seems like the buyer, Jinhoo, asked them to vacate the house within 4 days, before Christmas. He wants to spend the holiday there. She immediately refuses. It's impossible to move out in just 4 days. We don't even know where we'll live yet. Then the agent drops another offer. We'll pay you an extra 20 million, enough to rent a place immediately. Just clear out as soon as possible. That was all she needed to hear. She immediately calls Jinhoo. It's done. The family will be gone by tomorrow. Jinhoo finally relaxes. 2 years after his father's death, he finally got the house back. The agent congratulates him. Time to sign the contract, right? She's already secured a fat commission. In the city, Christmas trees are being set up everywhere. And Jinhoo? He's pissed. Why the hell is everyone walking around in couples? Meanwhile, he's single and miserable. But at least, he's on his way to buy presents. And that makes him happy. Then his phone rings. It's his mom. Jinhoo smiles. Now it's a perfect Christmas. He answers. I'm on my way home. Next chapter, he called his mom to go out and eat something. She wanted to eat at home, saying there was no need to spend money, but he just pushed her out the door. Already getting into the otaku's car, yeah, that damn friend with wafers plastered all over the doors. His mom wanted to know where they were going, but he told her it was a secret, though it was somewhere really nice. That's when he got a call. The fierce ex in hurry, of course. She just couldn't get Suguri out of her head. As soon as he picked up, she was mad, asking why he wasn't answering when she had been calling nonstop. He apologized, but did it in a rather rude way, saying she was calling too much, especially considering it was Christmas. But poor Hurry told him there was something much more important than that. She wanted to know, though he already figured, how he knew that L6 was going to be discontinued. That's when he remembered he had accidentally let that slip. Now all twisted up, he tried to play it off as just a joke and said he had more important things to deal with, so he'd call her back later. Merry Christmas. She tried to shout, calling him senior, but he just hung up on her. What Chad? At the same time, Sang-yeop, the guy who went bankrupt, was messaging him too. That bastard must have remembered something. But before he could focus on that, his mom touched his arm and told him to take a look. Yeah man, they were right in front of their old house. Seeing her standing there, he knew she was remembering the past 20 years of memories. She then said that was enough, and they could head back to the car and straight to the restaurant. But our boy acted like he was going through some mental breakdown and just walked straight ahead. She tried to stop him, but he was already inside, commenting that it looked like everyone who used to live there had moved out. Walking through the rooms, she started remembering the moments they spent there. Like when he used to bring that poorly drawn circle of his that looked more like an egg. Or when he got accepted into college. She was so happy. She lowered her head and said it was enough. Even though the house was empty and still belonged to someone else, they had to leave. But then he asked what she meant by someone else's house. She was startled and he told her to think of it as if they had rented the place. Because finally, it was theirs again. Right then, she got emotional and wanted to know how that happened. So he explained that he made money off his sick otaku friend and bought it. At that, his mom dropped to her knees. He knew that ever since his dad passed away, she had been holding it all in. It would be a lie to say she hadn't suffered, struggled, or felt sad. But now there she was, overwhelmed with emotion, telling him he had grown too much and turned into such an irresponsible man. Our boy told her to calm down, saying today was a happy day, not a day to cry. Meanwhile, that otaku friend of his was right there beside them, crying with the ugliest face ever, drooling all over him. So he had to explain everything to his mom. But he didn't want to tell them the full amount, otherwise she might pass out. When she asked how much money was left, he told her 1% of it, around 3 billion. Of course, she was shocked even at just 1%. Imagine if she knew the whole truth. Then he said he was thinking of holding off on going back to college and focusing on investments instead. His mom warned him that it was a dangerous business. His dad always used to say, anyone who claims to have a secret way to make money is usually a liar. He stood there, a bit awkward, wondering why his mom didn't believe in him. But he understood it was normal for her to worry. So he reassured her, saying he would always be cautious and only use the money he had already earned, which was a much safer approach. His mom sighed and said that apparently she'd have to rely on his otaku friend to make sure he didn't waste all that money. He nodded and told her, yeah, you can trust him. He never let me waste billions or trillions. Of course, the house still needed some repairs. Just look at that sink. If you drink water from there, you'll probably get tetanus. And once again, his mom was all worried, saying that fixing everything wouldn't be cheap. But he told her not to worry, that she could stay in their current house until all the repairs were finished. At that moment, the otaku friend reminded them that their restaurant reservation time was coming up and they should get going. Before they knew it, they were already toasting, enjoying a peaceful Christmas together. Our boy spoke to his father in his mind, telling him that he could rest now. He would take care of his mom. Damn, this guy is a sweetheart. Next scene. Looks like he was already helping his mom move, telling her not to worry. She told him to keep calling her and that if anything happened, she would come check on him. Our boy then mentioned that to prepare for more serious investments, the otaku even bought a new house just for them to focus on that. He asked about the price and obviously, yeah man, he had spent 4.2 billion. What the hell, he got one of those massive movie-style mansions. The plan was for our boy to take the first floor while his friend took the second floor, and that was it. On top of that, he wanted to know what his friend thought about opening a library on the ground floor. Jinyu already knew what this bastard was really thinking. It was probably a manga shop instead. Then the otaku said it was time to go shopping, because according to him, it's not about how much you earn, but how far you go. Obviously, just like us, our boy thought that made no sense at all. But off they went, shopping like a newlywed couple trying to furnish their home. Jinyu was obviously worried while the otaku walked in demanding a 100-inch Samsung TV. The salesperson looked a bit nervous until the otaku casually said he wanted one of every single expensive item in the store. The guy was already thinking about offering him a discount card, looking confused, because the otaku said he was there to buy only Samsung products since the company had brought in great fortunes. The total bill came to 68,000, and the otaku just responded that he thought it would have been way more expensive. With that, they left the store with everyone bowing to them. The next day, the house was already fully furnished. It looked like a mansion straight out of a movie, pool table, chandeliers, everything. And in one of the upstairs rooms was the investment room, my guy. One of the documents coming out of the printer was the company's registration, the certification for OTA, where our boy owned 80% of the shares. He sat there staring at the paper, still finding it hard to believe. Now it was time to discuss how to activate his predictions more frequently. Since that was the only way to invest with certainty, they needed to find ways to increase their chances. Right now, the predictions were extremely unpredictable and random. Not to mention, the information they provided was very limited. For example, the prediction might say that a piece of land would increase in value, but it wouldn't specify whether it would happen in a day or in 10 years. The reason they almost lost everything with the phone incident was because the word in the prediction only said discontinued, and they had no idea when it would happen. On top of that, long-term predictions might not be absolute truths. The future isn't fixed, and their actions, or even those of others, could change the outcome. The otaku pointed out that natural disasters like eruptions, meteors, and such would never change. But the more humans were involved in a result, the greater the chance it could be altered. Our boy was shocked that his friend actually understood something this deep and asked how. The otaku just replied that time travel and changing the future are common topics in anime. And the worst part? The bastard was actually right. Our boy gave an example. If they had delayed even a little in the Samsung deal, all his money would have been wiped out. A land's value might not go up if some crucial materials suddenly became too expensive. Predictions were important, but how they acted on them was even more crucial. The otaku was just like me. Let's just invest and see what happens, man. At that moment, his friend asked if he was sure he hadn't lost his power, to which Jinhu replied no. Lately, he could feel a strange energy around his palm. Even the taste of coffee wasn't as easy to perceive as that feeling. His friend then told him to focus on activating the power more while he would keep an eye on everything else. Next thing you know, our boy was working on the PC while the bastard slept. While browsing the internet, he suddenly saw something that shocked him and called out to his friend. Online, people were trying to figure out who had bet on binary options against Samsung's future. The speculation was starting to spread that some foreign investment agency had pulled some shady tricks to make it happen and profit off South Korea. Obviously, he knew that they were the ones who had done it, even though in a way they had nothing to do with the actual event itself. In an emergency meeting, he pointed out that yes, they were the prime suspects and maybe they should have diversified their accounts a bit more. His friend agreed. The problem was that he also hadn't expected things to blow up this much. Jinhu remarked that this was normal. When you make money on a long position where everyone wins, everyone is happy. But when you bet against the market and profit while everyone else loses, of course, they get pissed. The otaku couldn't care. But Jinhu said that if they kept making billion and trillion-dollar moves and winning every single time, people would start getting suspicious. And one way for them to escape suspicion, my guy, is by making some regular investments, so to speak. Their company was going to become a holding. Basically, they would buy shares in various other companies. That way, their profits would seem like something that just happened naturally, while the rest of their investments would look like regular ups and downs, losing a bit here, winning a bit there. He tried explaining all this with a bunch of red and flat arrows on percentage charts, but I'm way too dumb to understand that. Just sum it up as they'll have money in multiple places, they'll be buying up various companies using that future knowledge along with some standard investments. After deciding everything, they were already shaking hands, saying it was time to take action. But in just 1 second, they looked completely exhausted. After analyzing the entire stock market and everything else, they had no clue where to invest. By the time it hit 11:58 p.m., they had spent an entire day doing absolutely nothing. But whatever, right? The bastard is rich. He's the king. It doesn't matter. That's when the otaku came in with a stack of papers saying he knew their boy was going to get sick of staring at a monitor all day. At this point, whether he was sleeping or awake, all he saw was paper, paper, and more paper, and he still hadn't found anything. Not to mention the predictions weren't activating. On top of that, they had so much money that they couldn't invest in small things or else the market would go crazy. But investing in something too big meant they'd have to pour in billions upon billions, which was risky. With the power of money, anything can be solved. When you don't know how to do something but you have money, what do? Exactly. You hire someone who knows how to do it. That was their plan. They were going to set up a division of their company, OTK company, filled with investors to handle the job for them. And the first person they wanted to hire, well, she was already calling the otaku. Of course, it was his wonderful sister absolutely tearing into him, her idiot otaku brother, demanding to know why his house was empty. He He tried explaining that he was in the process of moving, but she just told him to send the address immediately. Jinhoo thought this was great news. They had been hoping to meet her. Next scene. Kanju had already arrived at the house, but why did the artist draw her from behind? He should have drawn their backs watching her. That would have been way better. Wait a second. Now that I look closer, she's holding a life reducer in her hand, the infamous cigarette. The otaku was about to open a window saying the place stank, but she just told him to sit down. Even with 330 billion, the guy still couldn't escape her scolding. She wanted to know what this house was, and he explained that he was going to live there now. She obviously demanded more details, but the guy was acting like a complete fool. Explain what? Man, she immediately stood up on the table, fuming, wanting to know how the hell he had billions in his bank account. Damn, she was already climbing onto the table. This sister is dangerous. Now I'm scared. Huh. Now I get why she's so pissed. Obviously, since she works at an investment firm, she found out about the whole Suzuki Felino stock situation. Everyone had lost a ton of money and started getting angry when they discovered that someone had profited. They were even more furious at Golden Gate, the bank where the account that made all the profits was registered. When she first saw the name OTK, she never imagined who it belonged to, until she checked the records and saw that this one person had made 672 billion. And that's when she discovered the name of the owner and how much he had profited at Samsung's expense. She literally screamed at her monitor, demanding to know what the hell her dumb otaku brother was up to. She asked if it was really him who did all that. The poor guy didn't say a word. He just sat there, looking guilty while she stared him down. Put down that cigarette, woman, you're too gorgeous to be dying early. The otaku, completely lost, asked why she was so mad. That's when she explained because of what they had done, the country's financial regulators were demanding all of their company's documents. He wanted to know what they were looking for, and she simply told him. They wanted to see everything that OTK company had bought, sold, or done within the country. He asked if they had sent all the documents, and she said, it's not that simple. Besides, their company was registered in the United States, and they couldn't just hand over client information that easily. Man, our boy was on his knees. What an absolute humiliation. Wondering why they were being castrated so hard over this. It's not like they had done anything wrong. To which she responded, they think you committed something called insider trading. That's when you work for or have connections within a company and use that information to bet against it. Basically, it's highly illegal. And the problem with that, if all their profits were deemed unfair, they wouldn't just lose the 670 billion. They'd also spend 5 years in prison, reevaluating their life choices. But of course, for that to happen, they'd need solid evidence. So in theory, they were fine, but you never know with politics. At that moment, Hyunju told the otaku to immediately explain where he got the information and what gave him the guts to make such a move. The bastard just pointed at his friend. Completely stiff, Jinhoo admitted that he was the one who passed on the info. Hyunju demanded to know where he got it from, and he just sat there, frozen. Then she slammed her heels against the table, ordering him to explain immediately, because he clearly didn't understand how serious the situation was. If he couldn't provide a proper explanation, this would become a massive financial crime. The otaku, scared out of his mind, quickly said, my friend here, he'll explain everything. Sometime later, everything had been explained. Of course, he didn't mention the future, my guy. He explained that when they first saw the otaku's phone explode in the room, they noticed some posts online and decided to take a crazy gamble after analyzing the situation. She seemed to somewhat accept that explanation, though she still felt like something was being left out. But it made sense, and it looked like these guys had the heart of a beast. Apparently, that's some kind of finance term for when someone's a complete badass and just throws 13 billion around like it's nothing. She then brought up a major incident that happened before, where some guys intentionally crashed a company just to profit from it. In total, those guys made 50 billion. That's 10 times what they had made. And now the entire financial market was going to pay the price. Just the firm she worked for alone had lost 20 million because of their little stunt. Jinhoo was starting to realize that this was way bigger than he had imagined. The bastard had thought this money just grew on a tree, but nah, it came from somewhere. She explained that if OTK had been a Korean company, they would have been screwed. Good thing it was registered in the United States. Also, let's take a moment to thank the artist, because now she was thick and sitting properly instead of those weird angles from behind. I swear, don't make me explain this again, man. Looks like I'm going to have to teach you how to make a manhwa. The two guys still had dumb expressions on their faces. Meanwhile, she wanted to know what they planned to do with all that money. That's when OTK explained that the money would be split 80 to 20. Our boy was taking 80%. Her expression? Yeah, you already know she didn't like that. She immediately started roasting her brother, demanding to know why it was split like that. He explained that all he did was provide the money. Jinhoo was the one who came up with the strategy and everything else, so he was the one who deserved it. Our protagonist understood that in the finance world, the person who risks the most money usually gets the largest share. But even though Jinhoo had contributed almost all of the investment, he still took the bigger cut. His sister pointed out that at this point, OTK company basically belonged to Jinhoo. To which the otaku nodded and said, yeah, I know. But he still wanted to keep investing with his friend. He was glowing all golden and brilliant, but before he could bask in the moment, his sister immediately shot him down again, saying that this time, they just got lucky. It's not like they were going to get it right every time. But he told her to relax, he already had good ideas for their next steps. Besides, he had already made back the 13 billion he originally invested, so technically, he didn't even need more money anymore. She told him to spill the rest of the plan, and that's when he asked her to join the company, offering 3% of his shares. That would mean 20 billion. Artist, what the hell? Now you're drawing from some weird low-angle perspective with an invisible chair? Dude, I'm done trying to teach you. You're cooking. Jinhoo knew she was probably making at most $500,000 a year, so the idea of receiving 20 billion all at once must have shocked her. Of course, since we're talking about Korean won, the number is way lower in dollars, but still, it's a lot of money. Our boy agreed with the plan of bringing her in and asked if she wasn't worried about him managing everything alone. She didn't even have to quit Golden Gate. She could keep working there and gather valuable information. But instead of answering, she just told our boy to go fetch her a coffee. Completely stunned, he immediately understood what that meant. Get lost, loser. I need to talk to my brother. He knew she was the smartest one. Got into one of the top universities without any special tutors. Not to mention, she was way too young to have made it into Golden Gate, a place filled with only the most experienced professionals. Meanwhile, her lazy-ass brother was a total loser and then suddenly became a billionaire overnight. Truly, what a fair and just world we live in. Cut to the next scene. Our boy was sitting in a cafe imagining that she must be feeling conflicted about receiving such an offer. But in the very next scene, she was already telling them she agreed to help. And now she told the otaku to go buy her a pack of cigarettes. Once again, basically telling him to get lost so she could talk to our boy. As soon as the otaku left, our protagonist could feel her staring at him. He thanked her for the help. She simply responded, "They offered me 20 billion. You really think I was going to turn that down?" Not to mention, if she didn't take the offer, they would have just found someone else. Jinhoo knew that was true, but it's not like they would have paid someone else 20 billion. But then sipping her coffee, looking all adorable, she admitted, unhappy. It was the first time she had seen her brother doing something that wasn't otaku related. Jinhoo agreed. Lately, the otaku had been way too hyped about all this. But then she turned serious and told him, "You need to understand, what you two did was extremely risky." Jinhoo, looking completely defeated, admitted, "Yeah, I know. Because even with the power to see the future, they had barely managed to not lose everything." She congratulated him on making 672 billion. But then she wanted to know why he was planning to keep investing. Our boy, the most honest and least ambitious protagonist ever. He admitted, "I don't even know why I started investing, and I don't know why I want to keep going." He knew money was good, and he wanted more of it. But now that he had this ability, it was impossible to just go back to living a normal life. Every legend in history had their own unique skill. His skill was seeing the future. Totally busted man. Logically speaking, everyone has some kind of advantage, and this was his. So he said, shining like a protagonist, "I'm sure this is the field where I'll excel the most." She didn't even respond. She just adjusted her hair. Was that a sign? At that moment, she gave our boy a lesson, telling him that the financial world wasn't as easy as he imagined. It was full of scammers and extremely skilled people. She had been working in the industry for 10 years and still felt like she was just starting to understand the market. If she had one piece of advice for him, it would be to avoid diving headfirst into this world. But he told her not to worry. He just wanted to make sure the otaku wouldn't get hurt. She then responded that she was happy to know he was her brother's partner. She stood up, stretched out her hand, and said she was looking forward to working with him at the company. Our boy immediately shook her hand and said it was also a pleasure to work with her. And with that, she now officially held 3% of the company. Now, get to work. You got hired? Get to your computer and work, damn it. Now it was time to research which companies they wouldn't be investing in. She sighed, leaning back and said, "Fine, fine. That's what I'm here for anyway." Meanwhile, he was just completely lost. Am I sitting in a chair or lying on a mattress right now? Now it was time to start hiring people for their investment firm. Because one person alone wasn't going to be enough. They needed a whole team. And now Hyunju was sending over information from Golden Gate on where to invest. Wait a minute. Isn't that illegal? I mean, in my head, it sure sounds illegal. Like she's working there, taking confidential data and sending it over so they can invest. Who said crime doesn't pay, huh? It seemed like the information she sent over was discussing the fourth industrial revolution. Something about artificial intelligence, a digital society, and all that. Just like us, the two guys were sitting there looking dumb as hell, saying they didn't understand a single thing. That's when he decided to call that guy, the one who went broke trading options but helped them out before. They invited the poor guy to a barbecue. But this time, the man showed up in a suit looking sharp as hell. They asked what he planned to do next, but he just said he had big plans. But for today, he was paying for everything, so they should enjoy themselves. At that point, they asked if he was still working his old job to pay the bills. To which he replied, "Nah, man, I paid everything off." Our boy didn't understand how, and the guy just said, "It's thanks to you, obviously." That caught him off guard. The guy explained, "That info about the L6 phone getting discontinued?" Our boy immediately asked, "Wait, you didn't bet against Samsung too, did you?" The guy shook his head. "No, I didn't think they'd discontinue the L6, but I did think they would replace the battery, which meant that the companies involved in battery production would suffer. So he bet everything he had left minus 700,000. All or nothing. This guy was insane. He either eats rocks or steak. No in between. Today he had impressed them again. He saw an investment opportunity that even Jinhoo, who had been obsessing over the market, completely missed. Jinhoo needed to know, "How much did you make?" The guy told them. Don't freak out, 150 million. Now that might sound small, but let's remember something here. He only started with 700,000. That's insane profits. Not to mention, Jinhoo had made a random offhand comment at that barbecue. And this guy, with just that tiny bit of info, spotted an opportunity and climbed out of the gutter. Sang Yap then explained that after that win, he paid off his debts, bought a new suit, and was preparing for an interview. That's when our boy was asked how much money they had made. Jinhu got nervous. How the hell was he supposed to answer that? He didn't want to reveal the full amount, until Sangyup just casually said, "I'm sure it was close to 500 billion. He explained that he heard from a finance friend that some foreign company had placed 13 billion against Samsung, and he figured it was them. Completely stiff, they denied it. Yeah, right. Like we have that much money to invest. We're not crazy. Until the guy reminded them, "I remember your friend here once lost 10,000 bitcoins, which by today's value would be exactly enough to fund that kind of investment." Jinhu couldn't believe this bastard still remembered something that specific from so long ago. But let's be honest, everyone knew about the otaku losing 10,000 bitcoins. The guy never shut up about how much he hated crypto after that. Then Sangyup said, "But maybe it wasn't you guys after all, since it was a foreign company." Our boy immediately agreed, "Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense for it to be us." Until Sangyup dropped the bomb. The company was called OTK, which just happens to be the initials of your friend's name. Jinhu had nowhere left to run. All he could do was sigh and say, "Damn, you really are impressive." No wonder he was considered one of the geniuses at their university. Then he asked why Sangyup wanted to meet up, to which he simply responded, "I just wanted to thank you and express my gratitude." But this was a problem for our boy. He didn't want people finding out about this, so he asked him to keep it a secret, to which Sangyup replied, "Of course, as the president of the club, I promise." Then he immediately asked, "So what's your next investment?" Jinhu was confused. "Wait, you said I was even gonna keep investing?" But this damn bastard already knew. "Come on, and notice you guys just opened a new corporation. Bro, get off my back, damn it." The guy even praised him. "Ever since I first met you, I knew you were different. You already understand that to win in the market, you need something beyond math, analysis, and calculations. It's a kind of luck, intuition, or a unique vision." Our boy laughed. "Come on, man, I don't have any of that. There's no intuition that can predict a company losing billions." But Sangyup just smirked. "Not everything can be explained. After being in the market for so long, I've realized that the biggest changes are always unpredictable. Like Isaac Newton once said, you can calculate the movements of celestial bodies, but not the madness of human beings." Damn, that line was fire. I feel like a poet now. And now Jinhu was feeling himself saying, "To dominate the market, you have to master madness. You need to be bold yet calm, to have a sharp and steady mind." And that's why both he and Sangyup saw our boy as a good investor. Now he wanted to know, what were the results? Jinhu was a bit confused. "The result of what, you lunatic?" To which Sangyup replied that just like he had mentioned earlier, he had come for an interview. "Ah, this bastard is a genius. Fine, I'll hire you too." That's when our boy realized. From the very beginning, the guy had been leading the conversation toward this moment. Meanwhile, the otaku was just peacefully eating, completely unaware of what was happening. Jinyu already knew that Hyunju was the help they needed, but just the three of them wouldn't be enough. They needed someone who could objectively calculate and make good decisions in the market. You could look at this in a negative light and think that this guy was getting close to them out of self-interest or to take advantage of them. But it was undeniable. He had talent. And right now, Jinyu actually respected his boldness. So he told the guy, "Right now, I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm looking for someone who can help us grow according to my ambitions." Suddenly, the table went silent. Staring at his bottle, Sangyup called out Jinyu's name. He told him, "You're my master. You should be using both hands to serve me." Then, out of nowhere, he stood up. "Nah, I don't care about all that." He clasped his hands together, ready to be served, saying, "From now on, I'll separate personal life from business. Age is just a number. What matters is skill." He truly believed that working with Jinhu was the best option, and he hoped they would make a great team. Jinhu knew that, logically speaking, this guy was way more prepared than both of them. And to be honest, the nature of a CEO isn't to be the most talented person. It's to be the person who knows how to find the most talented people. "Ah, you sneaky bastard. You think you're Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, huh?" And with that, he shook hands with the guy. "Welcome to OTK Company." Now, the barbecue had turned into a full-on celebration. Even he was finally relaxing with a beer. "Man, I can finally take a breather." I was nervous as hell. He was still being all formal, but Jinhu told him to relax for now. "We'll only need formalities when we have more employees around." He asked, "It's just the two of us?" To which the otaku responded, "Nah, we got my sister, the queen of black skirts." As soon as they mentioned she worked at Golden Gate, Sangyup immediately understood. "Ah, so that's where you guys got the courage to jump into this world." Jinhu didn't even bother explaining that she had nothing to do with it. Instead, he just asked how things were going with school. Sangyup said that he hadn't been there much lately. He had decided to aim higher and do something better with his life. He was focusing on finding the next big industrial shift. "All right, explain yourself, genius. Go ahead, do your little philosophy speech." And sure enough, he started philosophizing. At first, all companies believed that multifunctional phones wouldn't catch on. But today, everyone has one. That's because geniuses change the world. And those who fall behind only realize the world has changed after the fact. So even if you're not a genius, if you keep your eyes open, you might spot a shift and take advantage of it. Jinhu agreed. "Yeah, I think the same way." Meanwhile, the otaku just sat there. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't understand a single thing, though." With that, they toasted to OTK Company. Next scene. Our boy was back home completely exhausted. The next morning, he woke up with a massive headache. His mom called, asking where the hell he was. He answered saying he drank a lot and slept in late. Now sitting in the living room looking at some documents, he was impatiently waiting for the next investment opportunity. That's when the otaku came downstairs. "Hey, are you gonna pick up that damn phone or what?" The thing was vibrating non-stop. Our boy just said, "Nah, it's just a scammer." But as the otaku got closer, he saw the caller ID. It was Shin Yuri. "Bro, our boy is way too cold. Can we give the waifu a chance here?" "Thank you, otaku." He picked up the call even though our boy didn't want to. And immediately, she asked, "Did you not save my number? Is that why you never answer my calls? Why aren't you talking to me?" Completely awkward, he mumbled an apology. Meanwhile, she was lounging on a sofa, looking gorgeous and thick. She asked if he wanted to go out for food. She wanted to thank him for warning her that the L6 would be discontinued. The moment he told her where to meet, she immediately perked up. She got the address and told him she'd be waiting there. At that moment, the otaku whispered in his ear, "Who is Shin Yuri? As the CEO of a billion-dollar company, you should be careful who you associate with." Jinhu just shoved him away. "She's just a junior dude." But the otaku kept poking him from behind. "Don't forget your responsibilities in this company." The problem for our boy, when he checked his wallet, he barely had any cash. And he still didn't have a corporate card to access the company funds, since everything was under the damn otaku's name. Like a beggar's son, he went to the otaku asking for a few bills so he could go out. The otaku acted all dramatic. What's the point of having billions if everything's stuck in some foreign bank account? Finally, the otaku sighed and handed him 100,000. But the moment our boy touched the bill, the bastard held on to it. Next scene. He was standing in front of the subway station, and Shin Yuri came running over, her thin little legs moving like a gazelle. "Where did sofa thick Yuri go?" She was beaming, asking if he had been waiting long. Apparently, she stood out because all the guys nearby were staring at her. "At the restaurant," she admitted. "I never thought you'd come this far just to see me." To which he explained, "I moved nearby with a friend." Immediately, she grinned. "Oh, so for this close now, we're gonna have to see each other more often. Damn, this one's a player." Jinhu found this whole situation strange. He never imagined that this girl was so friendly. Considering everything he had heard about her, in theory, she wasn't the social type. So why had she invited him out for this big meal? Our boy was going crazy inside his head. Watching her eat ramen, he thought, "Damn, you eat so well. It's a beautiful sight to see." Clearly, he wasn't all there mentally either. After finishing the food and cleaning up, he said he would pay. But she insisted, "No, I invited you, so I'll pay." Back on the streets, she thanked him for coming, saying she was tired of eating alone. He asked why. She explained that she lives alone. Then she pointed at an apartment complex. It was his own building. That shocked him. That was one of the most expensive residential complexes in the area. And apparently, she got an entire unit all to herself. Bro, she's rich. And then she invited him over to take a look at her apartment. "If it were me, I wouldn't be refusing." She mentioned that the walk there was beautiful and that there was a perfect cafe nearby. On the way, he asked how long she had been living there. She revealed that she had lived there since she was a child. She had moved out for a while due to renovations, but she had returned 6 months ago. Hearing that, Jinhu immediately realized, she's not renting. She probably owns that place. He asked, "Where are your parents?" She explained that they lived in another country because of work. Damn, is she the perfect saint? Curious as hell, he asked about the price. She casually responded, "The cheapest unit goes for 2.3 billion. To be fair, the house he was currently living in with his friend was 3.3 billion. But still, a 2 billion apartment was crazy expensive. Even our rich boy thought the price was ridiculous for just an apartment. She explained that her family had bought it when it was worth 1.8 billion. And by doing nothing, they had already made a 500 million profit. Suddenly, she told him to wait a moment. She had something to ask him, and she wanted him to answer honestly. Ever since that day at the phone store, there was something she couldn't stop thinking about. Our boy was nervous. Was she about to make him an offer? Because all he could hear in his head was the otaku telling him, "Be careful with those billions." But she was completely innocent. She just wanted to know, how were you so sure the L6 would be discontinued? At that, he relaxed. It wasn't the kind of offer he was worried about. He remembered that last time he had tried to dodge this question, and it didn't work. So he gave his usual excuse. "Well, a bunch of people online were saying the phones were exploding, so I just took a gamble based on that." She laughed. "You said it so casually that I thought you meant some kind of secret information." He awkwardly laughed back. "Man, I wish I had something like that." Meanwhile, deep down, our boy was pissed off, because it had been a while since that damn ability had activated. She looked a little sad, saying that it would be nice to know things in advance. He agreed. It looked like she was still holding onto her old phone. She wanted to trade it in for the next model since Samsung had announced a trade-in promotion. She asked what he thought. He told her, "Yeah, it's a good deal. I doubt Samsung's going bankrupt anytime soon." Then he started explaining. Samsung's real business was semiconductors. They had a monopoly, so the prices would rise. So yeah, she should hold onto the phone and swap it for the new one when the time came. But as he started leaving, he said, "I'm not an expert though." She replied, "It doesn't matter if you're not an expert. Even experts are constantly wrong. But since you said it, I'll hold on to the Samsung shares I have." "Wait, she owns Samsung stock?" He immediately asked, "How many do you have?" She casually responded, "I bought 20 shares. He was shocked. That was worth 2 billion won. Right then, they ran into an elderly woman who greeted her as granddaughter. She told Shin Yuri, "It's nice to see that you've matured enough to find a husband." Shin Yuri was caught off guard. "Wait, what? I'm only 20. I'm not getting married." But the old woman just smiled and said, "At my age, 20 was the perfect time to get married and have kids." Meanwhile, Jinhu was still stuck on the fact that this girl had 2 billion won in stocks. The grandmother then handed her some money. "Just take it, like always." Shin Yuri, having no choice, just thanked her and put it away. After the old woman left, Shin Yuri explained, "She's been my neighbor since I was little. She's always helped me." Turns out she owned 3 apartments in that complex, and several others where her children lived. This wasn't just some old lady, she was filthy rich. Her backstory: 40 years ago, she bought some houses. The prices skyrocketed, so she sold some, bought new ones, and kept going. Now she had made a 19,000% return over 40 years. Sure, it took 4 decades, but now she was living large in her old age. Jinhu explained, "She's basically an IPO investor. She put money into companies when they were small, and when they grew, she made bank." And right then, he had an idea. Shin Yuri looked confused. "What?" He just smiled. "I finally know what to do." And then, he left. They had another coffee planned, but he was already running off. Poor girl. She was about to invite him over to see the living room, the kitchen, maybe even the bedroom. But now, bye-bye, finance boy. She just stood there, gorgeous as ever, sighing. This bastard always leaves out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Jinhu was literally sprinting through the city. He messaged the otaku. "Check the list." And the moment he got home, he yelled, "Stop playing video games, damn it. I finally know what we're going to do." The otaku asked, "Did you have a vision?" Jinhu shook his head. "No." That's when he explained the same theory as the apartment complex. The idea was to target companies that were either just starting or going through a major restructuring and invest in them. That way they could catch them right when their value skyrocketed. But the otaku was more interested in one specific detail. "So tell me more about how you almost ended up in the junior's apartment." Jinhu just shoved him aside. "Focus on what matters. Damn it. This is the Industrial Revolution. Just like cars replaced horse-drawn carriages, Aram took down hotels, and Uber wiped out taxes. We need to find the startups that are just beginning and about to start a revolution." After a long explanation, the otaku finally said, "Okay, I get it now." The problem was that this type of investment was extremely difficult for anyone, except for them, because they had the ability to see the future. They just needed to ensure that his visions would activate when reviewing these new startups. But now, it was New Year's. His mom came over and cooked for them. Everyone was emotional, happy as hell. Nobody wanted to be broke again. A little while later, she was getting ready to leave. He asked how she liked the new house. She told him, "Unhappy. It was your father's favorite place." Our boy smiled. She hugged him and said, "Don't do anything stupid." She got in the car, waved goodbye. And that was that. Back to work. Same messy room. Stacks of papers everywhere. Still looking for investments. That damn evil hasn't shown up in ages. These idiots were pretending to work, just waiting for the future vision to activate. The only investments they had made recently, the one sent by the queen of the office. Considering how skilled and talented she was, it was hard to believe she shared the same blood as that damn otaku. Our boy had piled up stacks and stacks of new companies, hoping for the vision to kick in. But it wasn't happening. Hours later, the otaku was passed out on the sofa playing his Nintendo Switch. Our boy was still holding papers, feeling that energy in his palm. Then suddenly, he slapped the papers down, trying to wake up the damn otaku. "Get back to work. You can't just sit there doing nothing because you can't see a future." The otaku yelled back, "Are you crazy?" Jinju smirked. "I'm just kidding. Now spread these papers all over the floor." His senses were getting sharper. At the very least, the otaku was useful for something. So he laid out all the papers on the floor. Our boy passed his hand over them. Some papers did nothing. Right away, he told his friend, "Cut up every useless one I hand you." If a paper didn't activate his senses, they would destroy it. It was a battle of endurance. But the damn otaku thought the endurance was Jinhu's problem, not his. So he didn't care. Some time later, Jinhu finally felt something. He touched a paper, and it activated. As soon as he felt the energy, he threw it into the center of the table. The rest, cut to pieces. Piles and piles of papers. Stacks of food wrappers. Day turned to night, night turned to morning. And there he was, buried under countless pages. Meanwhile, the damn otaku was still choosing which character to play as. 10 days later, the giant pile of papers had shrunk significantly. But still, it was a lot. His friend told him, "Dude, relax for a second. You haven't stopped at all." But Jinhu shook his head. "No, I'm in the zone. I'm seeing this through to the end." The otaku shrugged. "Fine, whatever." Then cheered. "I leveled up in the game." Meanwhile, Jinhu's vision started blurring. "Just a little more. I just need to hold on a little longer." Then, he found himself standing in a galaxy, floating above a lake. In front of him, a golden unicorn appeared. Wait a second. Unicorns. Aren't they what they call startups that grow into billion-dollar companies? The creature ran past him, jumped, and left a message. FACEIT. Wait, isn't that the CSGO sports platform? The one that runs tournaments? They're investing in his sports. Then, more forces appeared. Halfpoint, Impizza, EDM Entertainment. Wait, all of these are going to explode in value. This was it. He had finally found what he was looking for. Next morning, he woke up in bed. He asked, "How long was I asleep?" The otaku answered, "About 20 hours. Jinhu sat up. "I saw some unicorns in my dream." But then his face darkened. "I don't remember anything." "Oh crap." The otaku patted his shoulder. "No worries, I wrote down the names you were murmuring in your sleep." At least I think that's what happened. But hey, it looks like we've got some names to work with. They were investing in private companies. The problem with that? Unlike stocks, private investments require negotiation. It was like, I give you a ton of money, and if you grow, you give me a ton more money back, okay. Something like that. But our protagonist immediately pointed out, it would take way too long to build a whole team just to manage these investments. They had to move fast. To make sure they wouldn't lose any of the opportunities from his dream, they needed a two-step strategy. I have no idea what that means. But what I do know, Sang Yap was ready to go. And if he's the one handling things, I'm already confident. The bastard is going to get everything. He was called to this meeting and was feeling all nervous. But he calmed down when he saw that inside the room were our boy and the queen of the skirt. It looked like they wanted to borrow Golden Gate's name to build trust as investors. Hyunju mentioned that handling this would cost 1.8% of the total investment, not to mention that the commission for a 500 million investment would be at least 9 million. Sang Yap was listening to these numbers and getting completely overwhelmed. These kids were playing on an entirely different level. He even felt embarrassed about the money he had mentioned that day. Watching the whole meeting, he was already scared, thinking that Jinhoo was really going to go far. The only problem for Jinhoo was that they could no longer invest through OTK company, right? Because that company couldn't be tied to anything in Korea. If they wanted to attract attention as big investors, that would help with marketing. But their lives were much more peaceful, with no one knowing who had made all that money. Not to mention it was better for their family's safety, like his mom, for example. The otaku commented that investing like this was going to be difficult. That's when our boy said that's exactly why he had a certain strategy, and told Sang Yap to stop standing by the door and come in already. He was all red-faced, apologized, and walked in. Then he introduced himself all awkward to the queen of the skirt, who responded with a nice to meet you and introduced herself as Hyunju. He was already thinking that she was quite a prominent figure. With that, Jinwoo started discussing the company's plans and informed them that they would be creating an investment company as a subsidiary of OTK. Obviously, they would fund everything. The initial capital was 70 billion and Sang Yap would be managing it. The poor guy almost had a heart attack. He nearly collapsed and he wasn't even that old. Not to mention, he would receive 2% of the company's profits per year. Sang Yap was in shock minus 70 billion to start an entire company, and they were leaving all that money in his hands. The confidence he had shown at that dinner was because, to him, this all seemed like a possibility. But now it was becoming a reality. Right in front of him was a prodigy in investments, and Jinhoo, in his very first move, had made billions upon billions. And then there was the otaku, who was also here for some reason. His mind was racing. He thought he was just coming in to be a regular employee. But now he was running a subsidiary with shares and everything. Our boy praised every decision he had made, and how he took advantage of the L6 situation. He didn't even have the option to refuse since our boy had already rented the place where he would be working. It looked like that was all the work of the damn queen, huh guys? He was all flustered and embarrassed, saying he hadn't expected things to move so fast. But Jinwoo told him that was it, no turning back. He was going to work there because he was the right person for the job. The otaku, as always, wanted to name the subsidiary. Our boy quickly told him to forget about giving it some otaku name like Royal Blood Company or something like that. Sang Yap was observing our boy, realizing how incredible it was that he remained the same person even after everything. He then stood up and said that since this company was meant to hold the money from the other one, it should be called K, short for keep. And just like that, the company was named K Company. When Hyunju and the otaku commented that it was simple yet impactful, our boy agreed. With that, Sang Yap would be the CEO, as he would be managing all of K Company. Our boy even made a USB with all the company details and handed it to both of them. In a ridiculously luxurious hotel, the queen of the skirt was buried in paperwork, while the two fools were standing by the window, just staring. It seemed like this would be the location for K Company's office. Since it was right next to the airport, investors could arrive quickly and leave just as fast. It looked like today they were going to meet one of the company's lawyers, and judging by the way she walked, it was clear she was a powerhouse. The queen of the skirt stood up to greet her, and the woman approached. She seemed rather humble compared to the others. Her name was Ellie Kim, 26 years old, and she was joining the legal team. Legal is in legality, like a lawyer. I hope you got that. Our boy smiled, saying he hadn't expected it to be a woman. And immediately, the otaku asked if the CEO was looking for women or something. He just ignored him and greeted her. The otaku introduced himself. Ellie was all bright and cheerful as she introduced herself, while thinking that she had expected the head of this new company to be an old man, not some young guy. Hey, are you interested in our CEO? Right behind our boy, the otaku was already locked in. Apparently, this woman spoke 4 languages, which made her a beast when it came to handling investments worldwide. Our boy was thinking that there were some truly incredible people in the world, unlike him and his friend. Hyunju explained that she had already told Ellie everything, and she knew that no one could know she was working for them while still being at Golden Gate. Hyunju then wanted to know how he planned to handle meetings. Would he show up in person or keep a low profile? He answered that he would look each person in the eye and see who was joining the company. She nodded and said, perfect then. It was time to invest. The bastard is going to get everything. He started with those investment explanations again. Basically, it's simple. If you buy a lot of company, you have more control but take on more risk. If you buy less, you don't control much, so the risk is lower, but you also can't steer things the way you want. I feel just like Takuya when all these pie charts start showing up. Our boy was sitting at the edge of the table, looking a bit overwhelmed. He wasn't used to wearing a suit, and honestly, meeting all these companies was kind of intimidating. Meanwhile, the two women beside him were calm as if they were just taking a stroll in the park. That's when he decided to check out who they were meeting and suddenly looked shocked. Hyunju asked if he was okay, and he said it was nothing. At that moment, the first two company owners arrived, Toby Strong and Gerald Bacon. Dude, that's the most American name I've ever heard, Gerald Bacon. Our boy immediately thought that successful companies should be able to summarize their goal in a short sentence, so he braced himself in the cold to see what these lunatics were going to say. And then the spiky-haired one said that Face It's goal was to become the Netflix of the adult industry. Well, at least he kept it short. He explained that the current industry was worth $15 billion, but the market was projected to grow to $100 billion. And during that time, they would expand their company tenfold. Current industry leaders were still using old business models, and they wanted to revolutionize things by creating the Netflix of fun. They were speaking entirely in English, and the two idiots were completely lost. Wait, now that I'm looking closer, their logo kind of looks like the Facebook icon. And Netflix was censored as Matchflix. The guys said they wanted to integrate Netflix's technology into the adult world, using VR and everything. It was so innovative that even the presentation screen was pixelated. I don't even want to know what was on there. The otaku only needed to glance at the images before saying that the idea was brilliant. The queen of the skirt, however, said it made no sense. This kind of content was available for free, so why would people pay? But the otaku immediately told her to be quiet. If there's anyone here who understands this industry, it's me. With that, she just gave in. Fine, we'll invest and Face It. It seemed like investors were interested. The second company was Pizza M, which was using robots to make pizzas without workers. Mem Delicious investing in the end of human labor. What an amazing company, let's definitely invest. Blow up this world already. The otaku, of course, said it was a perfect idea and that they should invest. Hyunju wasn't too convinced, but the otaku pointed to himself and said that she didn't understand pizza as well as he did. Then he started talking about flavor, saying it had to be good since everyone was used to ordering pizza and the taste was something familiar to people. After a long discussion, they invested $7.5 million. Night fell. Our boy collapsed onto his bed, exhausted. He asked if the otaku wasn't tired. The otaku said, "Nah, the meeting was easy. I was sitting down the whole time, so it was chill." Hyunju only now realized that the bastard hadn't used an ounce of mental energy on that meeting. Unfortunately for him, tomorrow he would have to wake up for another meeting. He thought about sleeping but quickly got up and decided to go for a walk. Under the moonlight, he started thinking about that one girl, Siona, the one who dumped him for the Gucci King, wondering if the success she always talked about looked anything like the life he was living now. Damn, how Sigma of you. And Fen. Right as he was leaving the hotel, he ran into Ellie Kim. She was working out at night. Damn, she was focused. After a long day of meetings, she still went for a late-night run. She was all out of breath, looking a little mischievous, saying she had just finished her workout. She invited him for a beer, and he agreed. And just like that, the CEO's career was over. At Hugo's bar, he asked if it was her first time in Korea. She said, "No, I've been here 3 times before, but this is the first time for work." He thanked her for coming, saying she had been very helpful. And here came another one, bringing up the L6 explosion incident. She already knew that OTK belonged to a friend of Hyunju, and that person had made billions, trillions, quadrillions. She didn't even ask if it was him. She just assumed it was and clinked her can against his to congratulate him. The guys were a bit stunned. They hadn't realized that what he did and made such an impact that even people from another country were talking about it. He humbly said it was just luck, but she excitedly said, "There's no way it was just luck. You were incredibly brave to see the explosions and bet on something like that." Meanwhile, our boy was thinking, it was thanks to the otaku, who insisted that I invest, believing in my talent. She just found it funny that everyone thought it was a Japanese company, since the name OTK sounded like otaku. At that moment, her drink was empty. She said she'd love to stay longer, but they had work tomorrow. Back at the hotel. Damn, we even got a slow elevator shot. I thought something was about to happen. Why the hell did the artist draw this scene if nothing was going on? Wait, hold on. She paused and turned back. She wanted to ask him something. She got a little too close and asked, "Who's your favorite actor?" He looked confused and just pressed the button to close the elevator. Was she expecting another question? Or, what was that? I don't know. All I do know, we're already on to the next day. Another meeting, and now some guys from China came in with some ideas. It was Xiaomi and Yao talking about investments in China's transportation industry. Apparently, in some regions, trucks return empty after making deliveries, and they wanted to create an app that would perfectly calculate routes to ensure every truck returns with cargo. With their app, logistics costs would be reduced by 30%. Hyunju seemed to doubt their ability to manage a large-scale business. One of the guys tried to justify it, saying that even the government was interested in supporting them, and they started arguing back and forth. That's when Jinwoo started feeling a bit confused. He realized that the atmosphere in the room wasn't great. Then our dear Ellie Kim spoke up, telling them that they were paying attention and appreciated their plans. The guys immediately brightened up. They had assumed that no one there spoke Chinese and were struggling with their broken English. The moment she started talking, our boy noticed that the entire mood improved, because of course they felt more comfortable speaking their own language. With that, negotiations flowed smoothly, and everything was finalized. As always, our boy just sat in the room like an idiot, sweating bullets while doing absolutely nothing. Hyunju was truly incredible. He needed to learn from the queen of the skirt. A while later in the hotel's banquet hall, only the best food was on the table. Our boy commented that they were finally taking a break and asked what Hyunju was planning to do. The otaku was about to say something, when he got stabbed in the face with a fork. Damn son, be careful. But the one most interested in asking something was Ellie Kim, who wanted to know, does our boy have any plans? He said no. She then asked, would you mind showing me around Seoul? Immediately, Hyunju raised an eyebrow. Isn't that basically an invitation to a date? Ellie Kim was unstoppable. She smirked. You could interpret it that way. Then asked him, would you be okay with that? He said yes. She immediately left. Alright then, I'll get ready for our little date. See you in an hour. Our boy was just frozen, completely lost. Bro didn't understand a damn thing that just happened. The power of having 668 billion in the bank is too strong. A little while later, there he was, standing like an NPC in the middle of the hall, until someone called his name. It was Ellie Kim, all prim and proper. His soul left his body. I don't know if he was in love or if something else happened. But what we do know is that the otaku wanted to lend him his car. Obviously, that didn't excite our boy, because that damn car was covered in anime stickers. Our boy told him not to ruin this for him, but the otaku just said, enjoy the date, it's gonna be perfect. He handed over the keys. Take care of Kumi-chan. Kumi-chan was the damn name of the otaku's car. With no other choice, Jinhoo just accepted it. And there he was speeding down the highway in a waifu-covered car. He asked her where she wanted to go. She said she wanted to visit Korea University. Damn, he was definitely gonna run into a certain someone there. And that someone was gonna think, wow, look at him, all rich and shiny now. She asked if that was possible since she had heard that he used to be a student there. He said yes, so that was settled. But he was gripping the steering wheel in shock. Not because he was afraid of running into anyone, but because he was terrified that someone would see him driving Kumi-chan. If any rumors spread about him driving this thing, his reputation would be ruined. But there he was, already parking Kumi-chan right next to a luxury BMW. As soon as he stepped out of the car, she was about to ask something, but he already knew his first mission: get away from this cursed vehicle. But then, someone shouted his name and said they missed him. He greeted them back, standing there shivering in the cold, saying it really had been a long time. But the guys were already shocked. Yo, what kind of insane car is that? Then a weird girl showed up. She looked at him disgusted and asked, you really have no shame driving around with stickers like that? Her name? Lee Hyemi, 23 years old. Our boy immediately fired back. And what's your problem with what other people do with their cars? But the damn girl snapped back, you should at least consider how bad other people feel just looking at that trash. Our boy already knew this girl. She loved playing these little games. His friends just told him to ignore her as usual, saying she was always like this. He agreed. Yeah, she's always been annoying, but seeing her again after so long feels weird. Then, Lee Hyemi suddenly screamed, calling out to Siona, and here they came. Siona and the Gucci King, the couple. And of course, right next to them was a ridiculously expensive sports car. Whose car could that be, huh? Siona immediately recognized the otaku's sticker-covered car. She knew exactly who it belonged to. Lee Hyemi started laughing in our boy's face. That car is ridiculous. She knew that his family went bankrupt, that he was broke as hell. But showing up at school in that's shameless. His friends immediately told her to shut up and stop being so obnoxious. That's when Ellie Kim spoke up. She asked, why is she shouting? Lee Hyemi turned to her, looking even more irritated. Do you even know who I am? Ellie Kim played dumb, then stepped up next to Jinhoo and asked him, are these your friends? He said, yeah, just some old acquaintances from school. Meanwhile, the guys were now very interested in finding out, who exactly is this beautiful woman? Then, out of nowhere, Ellie pulled out her business card. Ellie Kim, Golden Gate. That was more than enough to shut everyone up, especially since she was a lawyer, a badass one. Siona froze. She was cute, sure, but I wouldn't waste a single cent on that woman. Then, here came the Gucci King himself, reaching out to shake hands. I'm Junyoung. Boy, Jeet Ao TJ here. Junyoung went to introduce himself to Ellie Kim first. Might as well have drawn a katana and cut off his own arm and hand right there. The bastard even wanted to know what she was doing in Korea, whether it was for travel or business. She said she was there for something extremely important, but today felt more like fun. After spending countless days stuck in a hotel with Jinhoo, she wanted to get out and see the university. His friends were thinking that our boy was the real deal. Several days in the same hotel with her. Unstoppable. Our boy tried to explain that it wasn't what they were thinking, while Siona was biting her lips in anger. She was holding back her emotions but couldn't fully control herself. At the same time, her current boyfriend was already handing over his business card, introducing himself to Ellie Kim. She went for the rich guy, now she had to pretend she wasn't seeing anything, huh? The guy introduced himself, saying his father was a company president, and that they also had connections with Golden Gate. He kept talking, making conversation. Then he looked at our boy and said that if he ever needed anything, he should just send a message. Jinhoo thanked him and seemed like he couldn't care less about the guy. He was just thinking that if he ever needed help from this construction company, it could actually be useful. But considering his own connections, he already imagined that he'd never need it. Still, he humbly replied that having this card did make him feel a little more reassured. I don't know if that was some kind of subtle Korean jab or just an indirect message, but the guy definitely felt the pressure. And at that moment, Suwon turned around and told him to hurry up. She still had to listen to her new boyfriend, talking about how it was a pleasure to meet Ellie. As Siona walked away, everyone else was trying to invite Ellie out for lunch. The weird girl in the background was fuming, thinking there was nothing special about someone being a lawyer for Golden Gate. Finally, after shaking off a bunch of people, they finished their tour of the university. Now they were strolling through the parks of Seoul, admiring the beautiful view. Ellie commented that the girl from earlier was really pretty from that rich couple. When he asked if she was talking about Xiona, she confirmed it, saying that it was probably that Xiona, the one people always talked about as being beautiful. He was confused. How did she know about Xiona? That's when she revealed that the otaku had already told her the whole story between him and his ex. Our boy was burning inside, already wanting to kill his friend. Ellie then asked that he still had feelings for her. He responded, obviously not. They had broken up a long time ago. Meanwhile, Xiona was sitting there in the car, watching him walk away with his new potential waifu, thinking about how he was in the past now. Ellie then said that they would be busy again tomorrow. She really enjoyed today's date, and they shook hands. Damn, not even a hug. This was peak Korean levels, starting from -5. Meanwhile, in the car of the corny couple, they were having a little chat. Let's not forget that when Xiona ran into our boy at the restaurant, she said she still loved him. She was only with this guy because, well, he had more money. Or at least he used to have more money. Because our boy is the real deal now. The guy was asking. So that was Jinwoo? The one you dated for a while? Xiona smiled and asked it. Are you jealous? He denied it. No, I just didn't know much about the guy. I was just surprised by that weird car. Xiona defended our boy. It's probably just a friend's car. He has a unique friend. When she mentioned the name, the guy thought it was otaku. But she explained. Not otaku. Otaku. That's when Jumyoung asked. And what's that guy's connection to a Golden Gate lawyer? Especially an international one who works all over Asia. Xiona just shrugged. I know that the otaku's sister works at Golden Gate, so maybe it's just a friend helping her get familiar with the city. The guy replied. Maybe that's it. But what he didn't like was how Jinwoo looked at his business card and didn't seem impressed at all. He should have known that in a capitalist society, money is power. Everyone who met Jumyoung always tried to suck up to him. But Jinwoo's reaction was different. Only someone who had more money, or at least the same amount, would act that way. He then said, that guy is actually pretty interesting. Your ex-boyfriend is impressive. At that moment, Xiona was already thinking about the real deal. She was too deep in her feelings, remembering that the last time she saw him, when she dumped him, he was completely broken. But now, he had changed so much in such a short time. Then she shook her head. Enough thinking about other people. Let's go spend some money. Next day, time to invest again, boys. The plan was to invest $5 million. But apparently, costs were much lower than expected. They would only need to spend $2.3 million at most. Jinwoo was shocked. $5 million was now considered a small amount to him. Now, a company called Air City was presenting their AI-based business model. Looked like this was the end of engineers. An AI that could construct buildings. Our boy asked, so can you literally make a massive project? The woman answered, we are 100% confident that at the rate AI is improving, this will become commonplace very soon. Boys, cancel those engineering degrees. They're done for. So far, every company we've seen has been trying to wipe out workers. AI is taking over everything. Korea's construction capabilities were the best in the world. One of the executives admitted that there was still a lot to improve in design. That sounded great. They could continue without interference in their projects. After several meetings and investments, it was 6:17 p.m., and the queen of the skirt was leaving, telling him to be back by 7 p.m. And of course, Ellie Kim wasn't leaving him alone either. She was already saying she was going to play squash and asked if he wanted to come along. He said no. His body was feeling stiff. Apparently, it was one of the sports only rich people play, and he was afraid of getting humiliated. The last time he played, he couldn't even last 3 minutes. Sometime later, after refusing her invitation to sweat out, he was just hanging out in the hotel, feeling exhausted. The otaku wasn't even bothering to participate anymore. Since he didn't understand English, he was just zoning out. But in his peaceful state, he said, no, as one of the major shareholders, I have to be there. Then suddenly, he changed his mind. Wait, no, I really have to be there. What if another amazing company like Faceit shows up? The only problem was, he was expecting something more dramatic. Money rising, falling, all kinds of action. But everything was just kind of boring. Our boy was about to tell a long-ass story, so let me summarize it for you. Back in the day, Alibaba was competing with eBay in China and struggling. But then one brave investor stepped in. He dropped $20 million into Alibaba without hesitation. Everyone called him crazy. Dude, eBay is dominating. Why would you do that? But 20 years later, eBay was struggling and pulled out of China. Meanwhile, that same investor turned his $20 million into $330 billion. His total profit? 110 trillion in Korean won. The otaku wanted to know. Okay, but why the long story? Our boy explained. I'm trying to tell you that this type of investment isn't overnight, you bastard. You should already be grateful that we're investing with the help of future visions. If that guy made that much with such low odds, imagine us who are only investing in the best companies. If even one of these businesses follows the same path as Alibaba, we can't even calculate how much money we're going to make. Then, out of nowhere, his sister showed up and ordered the otaku to sit down. She called our boy over and said, you got a message from one of the companies we wanted to meet with. One of them is DHK Engineering, or actually Yusung Motors, or actually Caros. Oh my god, can you people pick one name? 3 is too much. He asked what they said. She explained that they accepted the meeting and were coming to Korea tomorrow. The otaku was confused. Are we the ones investing? So why does it feel like they're rejecting us? She explained. Some of the companies we want to invest in already have investors. So we have to prove that we're an even better investor. It also seemed like another company, Karos, had also refused their investment. The otaku was baffled. Why wouldn't they want free money? She answered, because they needed a more appropriate amount. To put it simply, they wanted way more money. The meeting with these guys happened. All chiseled jawlines and serious business faces. The suits introduced themselves and so did the team. One Giga Chad looked over at our boys, saw that they were pretty normal looking, and wondered if they were assistants to the women. Right away, he asked, who makes the decisions for OT company? Hyunju responded, I've been given full authority. The decisions I make are the company's decisions. The guys nodded. All right, if the queen of the story says so, we'll trust you. Then one of them dropped a bombshell. We need $100 million. That's the amount Karos requires. The otaku immediately turned to our boy. Bro, is this a lot of money or not? The exit warned them. If you can't provide it, the discussion ends here. Bro, you took a whole plane to say that? And then, Hyunju clapped back immediately. If the issue was about having the money, then yes, they had it. The two fools were shocked. They even lost a bit of weight from the stress. They still asked if she meant they had all the money or just a small share of it. Immediately, the exec started bowing. Damn, money really changes people. They were already eager to present Karos' projects and objectives, but Hyunju interrupted. She said that she had already analyzed their entire business. She also knew very well about the difficult situation Karos was currently in. However, she wanted to hear it directly from them if possible. With that, the USB was plugged in, and the real meeting was about to begin. This time, the discussion was about modern cars, both electric vehicles and self-driving technology. These were the two biggest areas in car development right now. When it came to self-driving cars, Amazon owned 41%, Samsung had a small share, and Hitachi. Look at that at the last slice of the pizza. Wait, there's a Japanese car company called Hitachi. Damn, I would have invested in that. Oh crap, guys. I just lost all my money, the guy revealed. Hitachi went bankrupt and sold everything to Karos. Damn, it also looked like Amazon crashed too, and Samsung bought everything from everyone, now holding 86% of the market. Now they were looking to sell part of their Karos assets, and Hyunju wanted to know why. The guy shivered in the cold. Brace yourselves, here comes a bombshell. It turned out that the synergy between Amazon, Samsung, and the other company had completely failed. They weren't successful in recent developments for self-driving car technology. That's why Samsung now wanted to sell Karos' patents and tech to recover part of their investment. The problem was, if they did that, Karos would be worth nothing, because everything they developed would have been sold off to other companies, just like our dear otaku. I'm completely lost. All I understood is that people are losing money, and I want our protagonist to profit from it. And then Hyunju gives the summary of the situation, saying that these guys are just trying to recover their investment by financing them. Basically, the $100 million is the price Samsung is asking for the shares those guys used to have. Strangely, out of nowhere, the otaku asks if the protagonist understood that, and he replies yes. Then the guy asks to have a talk. The girls are left there kind of confused, and suddenly everyone leaves the room. Now I feel just like those guys not understanding what's going on. In the room, the chubby guy is already asking if they're really a subsidiary of Hyunsung. Our guy says yes, and wants to know why he's so mad. His friend says there's no way he's going to give those guys such an advantage. Now it's our protagonist who wants to understand, right? All this trouble with Samsung Motors or Hyunsung Motors, he's not even sure because they keep censoring the company name, and it's kind of confusing here too. Hyunju just tells him to ask Jinwoo. He asks if he knows those guys, and Jinwoo says yes, it's the biggest automobile company in Korea. Then our protagonist explains that this company is the biggest of all in Korea, also the second biggest and the third. These guys have everything. And now he reveals the reason behind his friend's whole reaction. It was those bastards who ruined his family. His dad died because of Hyunsung. What did those guys even do, man? Well, apparently that's what's about to be explained. His dad was the president of a small metal company with about 10 employees. He was all happy on the phone and seemed excited that Samsung's company wanted to use the new suspension system they had developed. Everyone got excited, right? Supplying a giant corporation. Apparently, his dad had created that advanced suspension system after years and years of study. In a meeting with bigwigs from Samsung, they said it needed a little improvement, but it could definitely be installed in the new models. His dad was thrilled, but the guy also said they'd need to keep receiving some products and a little explanation about how everything worked. Damn, but now we got a naive dad about to be scammed like a fool. Is he even realizing it? Why do you want to know my technology? And the Samsung guy said it was nothing serious, just that it was easier to explain and sell the product that way. With that, he said goodbye, adding that the only possible issue was that their company was too small to meet the production demand. Back home, he told his wife all about it, beaming with joy, saying that if they started working with Samsung Motors, they'd pay off their debts in no time. But soon after, back at the company, someone mentioned that something terrible had happened. Guess what, folks? Samsung had canceled the contract. Before he could understand why, the employee already showed him. They had created a product identical to his and filed their own patent. Apparently, it was already being produced in another factory that had been close to Samsung for many years. The patent had been filed before theirs, so it was game over. The dad was already stumbling, completely crushed. Man, looks like the dad collapsed and never recovered, says Jinwoo. After the family business went under, it was game over for him too. And who knows, right, why he didn't go to court to cancel that contract after they stole the technology? That's not allowed. That's when the queen in the skirt says that only an outside lawyer would say something like that. She probably doesn't know how Korea works, man. Here the big corporations run everything and are above the law in every way. Even if his dad had won the long and painful legal battle, he'd be up against 70% of the national market, which means it was the end of the line for him anyway. Then the otaku jumps in too, trashing the company, saying it's garbage and treats everyone like crap. So Jinhyu asks everyone to calm down and focus on the contract and the negotiations. That's when Hyunju says that even without the whole family drama, she's not very interested, since those guys are involved with 1, 2, maybe even 3 companies. He asks if 100 million isn't too expensive, and she says that, in theory, it's cheap, considering they probably paid way more to get those patents. He asks how much capital they still have, and she says 120 million. Ellie Kim also says that even if it seems like a bargain, the risks are way too high. And obviously, Otaku says he's completely against all of this. He wants to block that damn company in every way possible. Now Jinhyu is deep in thought, since everyone is against the idea. The problem is that the expensive name disappeared from his vision. Up to this point, he's been making decisions based on intuition and not numbers. But seeing everyone's hesitation, he says okay, maybe at least with this contract they won't move forward. Hyunju agrees but makes it clear that the final decision is his, since he's the CEO of OTK. Now our boy is sitting there looking like a fool, obviously not wanting those damn Sung Motors or whatever to benefit from them. If they buy Curl's shares, those bastards are gonna be overjoyed, and that's the last thing he wants. There are other places to invest and better alternatives. It's all part of a rational decision. But what was pointing him toward buying was his intuition, and now he doesn't know which one to follow. Everyone in the room is waiting to hear the boy's decision, and the Bravo says he wants a meeting with the CEO of those guys, but the other guy already warns that it's going to be tough. Apparently the guy can't come because of a conflict of interest, and that's why they're the ones here. It's rare for the CEO to visit Korea. That doesn't sit well with Jinhoo, who's now facepalming, wondering if he messed up by requesting a meeting with their CEO. Even Bravo tells them they should be smarter, since they're the ones in a rush. And yo, she even took off her glasses, man, trying to steal my heart, this damn woman. She reminds them that they're the ones who need the 100 million, so they better get moving to make things happen. She also made it clear that they need to respect the wishes of the CEO of OTK. With that, the guys said fine. They try to get in touch with their CEO too. Now they're stumbling back, asking when they can schedule the meeting. Hyunju, looking beautiful as ever, glances at our boy, who's thinking, thank God everything's working out. The next day arrives and the otaku is asking our boy if he's made his decision yet, saying he's not getting involved in this anymore. Jinhoo had stayed up all night thinking about it. This whole thing about partnering with a team that uses you when they need you and tosses you aside without hesitation. That's when an idea crosses his mind. That goofy blonde guy shows up, and apparently he's the CEO. Our boy introduces himself as the CEO of OTK. That weird dude looking like an albino Mark Zuckerberg introduces himself as Daryl Sagan. The moment our boy shook hands, he was thinking his intuition was pointing him somewhere. He needed to understand that he was only investing a mere 100 million. And then the pony figure appeared. Well, it's actually a unicorn. Darius Decacorn, which is basically a company headed for a 10 billion valuation. Considering he's ripping that valuation straight from Samsung, this was more of a revenge move than helping those guys. Sometime later, at 3:18 in the meeting room, he makes a comment about the name of the company. Sagan starts talking about electric cars, saying they want to revolutionize the industry by creating a car with artificial intelligence and all that. Then Hyunju comments that Elon Musk is already selling self-driving cars, so what makes this one different? Spill it. To which the guy explains that a self-driving car is different from one that follows pre-programmed algorithms. Get out of here with your shady marketing, bro. As soon as he explains their idea, the OTK jumps up excitedly, saying it's amazing. He says it's just like Cyber Formula, and Jinhoo laughs, saying that anime is from the IF era and like 20 years old. These damn guys keep referencing stuff that's not Korean. I haven't watched it to know these things. Then Daryl Sagan says they're actually looking for someone to buy all of Samsung's shares, or all Sungs, or whatever Sung. I don't even know which Sung anymore. Because their CDO isn't very interested in continuing the project. They want someone more motivated. Hyunju wants to know why they're backing out, especially since it seems like something that could revolutionize the market. To which he explains that the current CDO only wants short-term results to maintain his position and isn't too concerned with the future. If they follow the path those guys are suggesting, they'll end up creating just another system like the many out there. Jinhoo is thinking this project is actually amazing. Face It wants to create the Netflix of fun and joy, and Pizza and wants to put everyone out of work, but neither of those ideas is going to revolutionize the world like this one could. The guy's plan is to create self-driving cars to the point that, like, you just call one and it shows up at your house like an Uber, but with no driver. It goes by itself to the parking lot, charges itself. Basically, it's gonna put even more people out of work, right? Yeah, that's how it goes in this story. So he wants to know how the shares are currently divided. The guy reveals. Unsung owns 86%, some employees have 7%, and he has 6%. So basically, if they bought the 86% from Unsung, everything would be settled. Now our boy